Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the podcast and channel dedicated to Kharadron Overlords. Today on Aethercast, we are talking to Markus Fredriksson all about his recent TTS tournaments where he's been using Barak Thryng. But before we deep dive into his lists and his games, let's meet the man himself and my fellow co-host for the show and talk a little bit about the news as well. So, first of all, the man of the hour. We have Markus Fredriksson. Welcome to the show, Markus.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been listening to Aethercast quite a bit as well. So it's nice to be here as well, talking about my thoughts on Barak Thryng, which I think is a bit underrated.
Is it? Would you say we've been underrating it?
No. I think in general, I think people are blindly looking at Zilfin Vortex or Zilfin Demon Rift that is popping up now. And there are other ways to play the Kharadron book, in my opinion.
I have to admit, I kind of quite often look past Thryng a little bit. But someone that doesn't is, and we shouldn't go any further about introducing our own avatar, Gwynbrindle Dwardin, Max Bowman.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be back.
It's not actually been that long since the last show because we had one it went live on Wednesday, but we actually recorded it before then. Was it Wednesday?
We met on Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, so
to record it, so it went live on Wednesday. Yes.
Yeah, so where you
been ages.
We were talking about you playing Barak Thryng as well.
Yes. Barak Thryng is, for me, obviously interesting because I own Dispossessed and Fireslayer armies, so I always looked at it in terms of how can I use my model, how can I use my units. Although competitively, I tended more towards Zilfin and Barak Zon. But I'm looking forward to learn more. I've seen some cool lists with Thryng. I've heard there's a Celestine Prime involved, and I have the right model for that. Converted. Brock.
Oh, you have a Dwarf Prime? You have a Dwarf Prime? Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get one myself.
You can check out my Instagram. There's some pictures there.
Planning to get a Dwarfish Prime myself. Just not sure how to do it yet.
Oh yeah, it's basically just the Prime Spiral with a Brock body and then some I think what are they called? The Adeptus Mechanicus, some wings, mechanical wings, and then just some dwarfy bits to the Vortex.
Sounds cool.
It's very cool, and I'm stealing it. I just haven't got the Celestine Prime yet. I've bought the wings. I've got a spare Brock Gronson body, so it will be in the works.
Yep. So yeah, cool. Barak Thryng, looking forward.
Yeah. Before we talk about, is there actually any news since the last show other than?
We had
leaks.
We had Bellacore. we had a leak by
the AOS3 leaks.
About what AOS3 is. Apparently, it's dropping in 6 weeks. So that's a bit.
I kept the impression that it was 6 weeks until we would start hearing about it from Warhammer community.
I don't know. It could be 6 weeks until you can pre-order it, or I don't know, or we get proper rules and news and the new box set and who knows what. Yeah. And it's a bit, it's a situation where if these leaks are true and how things change, this will change, especially Fireslayer armies completely, how they work.
It will change a lot for a lot of armies.
So I'm a bit, should I paint these? Who knows if I can use them, or what will the army look like? So I'm a bit, I'm finishing painting up some Sky Wardens because I started, but I think I'll jump into the Cursed City models just for the next 6 weeks, paint those.
Sounds like a safe bet.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling a little bit about the same. Been a bit slow with the painting lately, but now when I heard the news, I have a lot of unpainted and some assembled models, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with them, especially as you said, Fireslayers. I mean, if these changes go through, it's going to change the that army a lot.
Definitely. So one change, maybe you can check out the video yourselves, but one change we're talking about is that buffs and debuffs do not stack more than the -1 or +1.
Yes,
and if
like
that
in 40K.
includes saves, Fairsley armies live from stacking +3, +4 to the save rolls. If that doesn't work that way anymore, it definitely changes what units you're gonna pick.
I also think that stand and shoot kind of changes them as well a little bit. It makes them more vulnerable, I would say, to those type of things. Because if they charge something and they can just retreat from a charge with a D6, while you're quite slow army, it's gonna be rough. But we'll see. It's just rumors.
Yeah, it's rumors, so I'm not too concerned about what's going to happen. But interesting times coming. I think in like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, we'll be buzzing, list building, and trying things. And wow, what if this and that? And then the whole hype will start again. It's been a bit, a silent start of the year so far for AOS because we didn't have an FAQ, like a proper one. No points changes, some Broken Realms rules, yes, but this will bring the hype back to the chats and the internet.
Even though we have been having the same points for almost a year, the meta has shifted quite heavily, actually, especially on TTS.
Yeah, because we introduced new armies. Yeah.
Not only that, I would say. Like the meta has shifted quite a bit. I mean, Seraphon is still one of the top dogs. So is Tzeentch, but you've seen more varied, armies up in the top as well. I would say so. When I think lists in general have changed quite a bit, which is interesting. You've seen the rise of Siege Archeon, which is
fun because a friend of mine, he played that at the GTC in October and came third and he was, I think, the first time I ever seen a Tzeentch Archeon list, and he did quite well. And now I've seen you've seen Archeon in Khorne before, but in Tzeentch, I personally haven't seen it before October, and now it's like half a year later, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it was a Tzeentch Archeon list that won Hamertime, wasn't it? So, was it? Am I wrong?
Sorry, what?
The list that won Hamertime.
Yeah. We're gonna have actually gonna have a showdown tomorrow. Me and Stephen Follows, who also went 5-0 with his Tzeentch list. We're gonna have a match tomorrow at 8 BST +1. It's gonna be streamed for anyone who's interested. But I would also say you've seen us Zilfin list have barely evolved. The only thing that have changed really is including Demon Rift because of Wizard meta a little bit more. But what I'm trying to achieve is trying people to try out Barak Thryng more because I think it has a lot of potential.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think other news we don't really have any news.
No, the only other news is some lore stuff from Broken Realms, which you probably don't want to talk about, Max, because you haven't finished watching 2+ Tough yet. So
we can talk about it if you want to. I'm almost through the last video, so I think I've got it all.
Well,
no, we can talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, we almost sort of mentioned it on the last show because Jay Durfee brought it up in the chat. He's actually in the chat today, so hello to him and to everyone else in the chat. But basically, in the final battle in Shamon,
I heard it. Legendary.
Yeah, there's basically Barak is attacking a bunch of ships, and then on the deck of one of the ships is an Archon just sort of walks forwards carrying a rivet hammer and just looks at Archon, and Archon and not Archon, Barak, sorry. Barak looks back at him and sort of decides to leave.
Yeah. Is it Grombrindle?
I think it's Grombrindle.
Does he have a white beard under that helmet?
Yes. Yeah. It says he has a white beard, I think.
It says.
It's not mentioned in the story, but then there's like an extra bit after that part of the story where it's like the aftermath, where then the Endrin Master that was like in charge of the fleet or whatever is then talking to that Argonaut, and then it's like, oh, he takes off his helmet to reveal a white beard, and so. And
I heard like Be'lakor remembered stuff from before, which is kind of funny because I actually have what's it, the 2019? I think it was the 2019. No, it was the 20th anniversary model, the Grombrindle with the cake, in the Space Marine suit. I have that Grombrindle. I'm thinking about turning him into an admiral, because adding some chaos stuff to him and so on, and putting him in my army. I like Grombrindle in lore. He's a badass.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Cool. I've been reading like the White Dwarf stories. It's just pretty cool, and it's the way he sort of acts in that last sort of section of Broken Realms where he's talking to the Endrin Master. It's pretty much the same as the way he talks to the Dwarden in the White Dwarf stories.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he's a badass.
So,
if they would add him, do you think he would go into a new Grungy faction? I think he would actually become a model himself. You think he would go into a new dwarf faction? You think he would be something like Gortrek you can have in, but for dwarfs, you can have him in all dwarf factions?
I think he'll be something you can have in all older armies, like the Elf Twins, for example.
Yeah,
or Gortrek
kind of thing.
Right.
He's a wanderer. So almost like the Elf Twins, he can join all the armies, and if the general is a Dwarden, they get plus 100 command points because he's such a badass.
And he can teleport, which is like the prerequisite. It's like the Elf Twins, they can teleport. Because like right at the end of Broken Realms, it's like he's talking to this Endrin Master, and then something sort of distracts the Endrin Master. He looks away, and then he looks back, and he's gone.
Yeah, that's what Grombrindle does. He just disappears, and then he comes back in times of dire need.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why he's such a badass.
That's like the narrative reason why you can go in every list as well, because just disappears and just ends up there. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, but we've been talking about this with the 6 White Dwarf stories that maybe there's something coming now with him actually showing up in the game lore. White Dwarf is always a bit apart. It's more Black Library lore. That's cool. That's promising. So yeah, keep painting those dwarf miniatures, whatever they might be. You probably can use them in the future.
Yes.
So who knows?
It does
maybe
make you wonder if, because if AOS 3 is 6 weeks away, and it can't be possible. I can't see them. Maybe they announce it in 6 weeks, but. It's not going to be out in 6 weeks. I think it's probably more likely the announcement of we're going to start teasing it,
and then like 2 weeks from there.
Yeah, a week after.
Well, what was Indomitus? That was quite boom, it's here. Deal with it.
No, they had a big leak. I mean, everything leaked online, didn't it? Like long before you had.
Yeah, but like 3 weeks before.
Oh well, I don't remember, but. I think
it was quite like people were expecting it with the Psychic Awakening, like something's happening and there's a new edition, and then boom, here it is.
That's probably why they're pushing the Broken Realms really hard now, right? Because they're delayed.
Yeah, they need to get stuff there so much behind. They need to get stuff.
Yeah.
If you look at like Cursed City, the points are from October or November last year. Someone told me that it was actually supposed to be sold at October, around Halloween thing. So. Half a year behind that box, and other stuff
more than half a year.
So I think the thing is they want the big releases in summer, like new edition 40k, new edition AOS. They want to keep that in like the summer break.
So what are your gentlemen's thoughts on Kharadron going into a new edition?
I hope we don't get the Tau treatment. 40k was not good for. I mean. This is we are glad with Kharadron because we're good at the moment.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, all the armies they're good at a certain time, like Skaven, like Gitz, and then they're less good.
I would actually I would say Fire Slayers is like an army that has been consistent. Fire Slayer has been good for a very long time. They've been at the top for a short while, but they've also been in right underneath the top for a very long time. They've never been, rock bottom like Kharadron has been. For instance.
No, but they're like
adopted them, and
they're under the radar because not many people. Although I think in Scandinavia and in Germany, a lot of people play Fire Slaves. I've if you talk to someone in the US, like they're barely in existence. And then you have tournaments in Germany, or we have 3, 4, 5 Fire Slayer lists, or I've heard also in the Scandinavian countries, in Sweden and Denmark.
Yeah.
So there's, I think also in Australia, people like Fire Slaves. I think so.
They're all about their destruction in Australia.
Yeah, but they can play with destruction. Just go march forward and beat people.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think if the rumor is true about the minus to hit, you're stacking once. That's actually a buff for Kharadron. So.
I think it'll even out, because if normal units can say, "Oh, we're gonna stand and brace your shooting, and your -1 to hit us."
No, I don't think you can do that. I think it just gives them 1+ to save, right? No, that's just for the charge. That's charge activations.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know.
It's rumors. We have no idea what's gonna happen. Future will tell.
But I think what I think is quite possible is that they're gonna decrease the size of the map, like the board size, to 40k sizes, and to their like multiples of Warcry boards, or
so 4x4
Kill Team. No, what is it? Like 66 by
44 inches or something.
40 by 66 something. It's a bit shorter, a bit narrower.
But the normal,
if that's good or bad for us.
30 by 22, the Warcry board, something like that. So it's like 60 by 44.
I don't know. It is a difference, yeah. But who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing is, based on those rumors, like if they're based on you spend a command point. I mean, we don't necessarily have a huge amount of really powerful things to spend command points on at the moment. And we do have quite a few ways of getting command points, although command points are also potentially changing the way you get them. So
the thing is, there's so many armies, there's so many rules that will not be applicable anymore. So they need, like, either they throw out a new battle tome like each month for all the factions, or there's just some battle tomes that will not work for like a year until they fix it. But who knows?
Yeah.
It's speculation so far.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we can't really say much more about what are rumors, really. So let's talk about what we're meant to be talking about, which is you, Markus, and Barak Thryng. So first of all, Markus, I don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then why you like Barak Thryng so much.
Well, I started with AOS. I never played fantasy. I collected fantasy back in the early 2000s for like 2-3 years as a kid, but I came back to Warhammer and AOS 2.5 years ago, pretty much. And I actually had, my vision was to play a United Dwarves army. I wanted to have some Fire Slayers, I wanted to have some Dispossessed, and I wanted to have Kharadron. And so I'll slowly work towards that, but at the same time I had some other units, armies as well. But then you had Cids of Sigmar releasing, and looked into Tempest-Eye quite a bit, where I started playing. This is before the Kharadron Battle Plum, so when they were really bad. So started looking into Barak Thryng, not Barak Thryng, I mean Tempest-Eye, where you could ally in 1 in every 4 could be a Kharadron, and then I could ally in Fire Slayers as well, usually allied in Volkites and so on to hold objectives, and then you had a core of Dispossessed like Iron Drakes and Soulscream Brutes and so on. But it's actually not until maybe, I don't know, this autumn, like last year or June, summer, last summer I started looking into Barak Thryng. So almost a year ago. Start playing with different stuff. And, one one thing that really helped was last summer's FAQ. Everything dropped in points. So before that, I was like, I can't really get an Ironclad and Endremaster and Nurgle suit plus half guards in the same list. But after that FAQ, you could just fit in so much more. And because of COVID, I haven't played a lot in the last year or year and a half. I don't know. So it kind of started this Christmas, around a bit before Christmas, like in November. Me and my brother-in-law picked up TTS and we started playing. I'd played lots of games in real life before, but then we started playing TTS, and then he was like, here's a tournament, Battle for Copenhagen, because I had been to local tournaments, but I'd never been to a real international tournament, especially on TTS. So I was like, all right, see how I'll do. I had low expectations, but he encouraged me. He said, yeah, you probably do pretty well. And well, we're going to talk about it later, and ended up ending third in the tournament out of 50 people with a Thryng list. And so that's pretty much the background with Thryng, how I got into Thryng. So it started, as I said, wanted to play United Dwarfs. And I think Thryng allows me to do that in a good and competitive way as well. So I think that's pretty much why I want to play Thryng, because and it's a bit odd, and I think it's actually really powerful as well. So, and I like the lore. I like how they're old fashioned and so on, and they're old and grumpy Kharadron Overlord dwarves who are really poor compared to the other Skyblades. They're super poor. Yeah, go on.
It's interesting because what attracts you to Barak Thryng is kind of the reason why I haven't gone near it that much. Is it feels like it is made for the people that want to play United Dwarfs, and for someone like myself, it's just like I'm like, if I play that, I'm not really playing Kharadron Overlords anymore, because to get the most out of it, I think you do need to use that 1 and 4 rule.
Yeah, I do. However, I've been playing other Kharadron as well, but for me personally, I had the most fun playing these Thryng lists. I tried some Zilfin. I actually like Barak Urbas, and which is what I find cool. And the same way as with Max, I actually enjoy building Barak Son lists. I haven't tried many of them, but I feel they're more fun to build than the regular Zilfin list, because that list pretty much writes itself, in my opinion. And then they have the Black Sheep Mornar, who could be quite fun to build and tweak around, but
it's just Arcanauts.
Yeah,
you need Arcanauts in Mornar.
Yeah, I actually think you need Arcanauts. You run attack squadron usually, and you can run low drop as well and run a spell and bottle vortex as well. But yeah,
you could.
I think, as I said, what attracts me to Thryng is the United Dwarf. I understand it's not for everyone, but I think it's cool in the Battle Tome that you have an option to
definitely
to do that. So it wouldn't just be another Skyport with some other rule. I think this is just I really like this. They started in, Stormcast have been doing it, but they started doing this more often in Siege of Sigmar, right? And then it carried over a little bit, and I like it. I enjoy it. It makes list building way more fun as well.
Yeah, it's a great way of giving people a gateway into different armies as well.
I mean, that's what happened with Markus. He played Tempest Eye and then got some KO and some Fire Slayers, and it's why I ended up in Kharadron. I bought a gun holder for my Tempest Eye, and here I am doing a podcast for Kharadron.
It spills over quite easily, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, when I came back to AOS, I was like, I'm never going to collect these ugly balloon dwarfs. I'm like, I'm dispossessed at heart.
I was exactly the same. I was the same. Like, what the hell is this? Space Marine balloon dudes. What?
Yeah, then I was like, all right, these Fire Slayers are acceptable. I can collect those.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then they started, 2 months after I started, I'm like, here I have a start collecting Kharadron Overlords box, and
here's an Ether Ward box half. Okay,
not just a half, 2 or 3 halves.
1 half, and then here's it. Do you want my Ironclad? I primed it and it's cheap, but I don't want to play it. Actually, okay, I'll take it. and then boom, I have 5,000
No,
points
but-
of Kharadron in my claws.
but it's kind of funny because my brother-in-law was the same. We were like, who the hell would collect these? These are just ugly dwarves with balloons. Like, but now they started growing. I mean, like, all right, these defenders are quite cool. Oh, his favorite was the Arcanaut, I think. The Arcanauts are pretty. Well, I was like, all right, they're cool. The Endermouse is quite cool, and the Gunholder looks all right. But yeah, it added up, and now I love all the models. Like the Ironclad, for instance. Both my favorite piece on the Ironclad is the guy painting it during action. I find it funny. It's lovely pieces, but yeah. I think that's maybe quite normal since you had the same experience, Max. They grow on you, and their lore is interesting as well.
They do. It's just I started with Dispossessed, and then there's no allegiance. Oh, Sidious Sigma. Oh, I can play Kharadron, and I had already a Fire Slayer army when the new book came out. So it's just now it's actually Barak Thryng should be the way to go where you can play everything.
Completely agree.
It's I'm looking for a Fire Slayer Lodge where you can bring in 1/4 Kharadron or something.
I tend to allay 2 Gunholders into my Fire Slayer lists.
Yeah, I did the same at the end. Yeah, especially when they drop points.
Yeah, you get for 260 points, you get 2 10 wound pieces that never brackets and actually can deal some damage if you're lucky.
Yeah, you can do that with the drill cannons, 36-inch mortal wounds on a 5+, so that's good. Well, look who woke up.
Yes.
Good morning in Australia.
All roads lead to Kharadron Overlords, it seems.
Yeah. How are you, Quan?
Good. And today on the paint table, I've actually got Kharadron Overlords for once.
Hey.
I'm going to paint a second dirigible suit.
Did you get that
apparently.
box?
Yeah.
Oh, not even
last thing I need is more engine riggers. I have like 21 of those.
Hmm.
Unassembled. I think I assembled 3 or 4.
Ooh, okay.
I rarely use more. That's the thing.
I
You only need a couple.
18 painted and more assembled,
Well,
engine riggers get to the point where you just don't need to count them anymore. They're just there.
No, you just have every weapon options there is, and you don't need to magnetize. It's just
After a while, you just
Okay.
they come in every box. They're just shrapnel that just accumulates.
they're like Trogoths and Gloomspite. They're everywhere.
Okay. Let's move on. I just realised this. We should have talked about this in the news. Just a reminder: Aethercast dice are on pre-order at the moment. So
lovely dice. I really like them.
Yeah, cool.
Plus,
3 different color choices.
There's a prize draw included in this. So if you want to get a dice tray from Pro Painted Studios with the Aethercast logo customized with some tokens and objective markers to fit these dice in, if you support us on Ko-Fi by buying some of these cool dice, you get automatically included in the draw. Or the other way is to comment under. Can we also comment under this video, Lee?
Yeah, go on then.
So if you comment under this video what your favorite Aethercast moment was of the past year. I've already read some very cool comments. My favorite was from Evelina. I think she's also watching. Her favorite moment was when we spotted spelling mistakes on Lee's slides. So that's always
that's
a
kind
great
of
thing
cheating
to do.
because it's not one moment.
No, it's going on. It's living the moment.
Thing.
Living the moment. It's continuous. So
it's an ongoing moment.
We already had loads of orders, so that's great. People, thank you for the support. And get your dice.
So sorry for the interruption in the proceedings of the show. We should have talked about that in the news. Let's move on to Markus's list, which is what I actually wanted to move on to. So this is the list you took to Battle of Copenhagen. So
correct, which was my first big tournament. Yeah, this is something that started as something very different. I can tell you that. And it ended up like this. I'm list building a lot with my brother-in-law, so shout out to him. We like list building. It's great fun. And I always had an idea when I looked at Thryng. I was like, all right, 20 half-guard berserkers together with a smite or something, it's going to be awesome. And it is. And what's different in this list, from like, let's say, a regular Zilfin list is you have way more wounds, and I would also your high drops. But it's not something that limits you because you have the Hearthguard, you have the Volkite, you have some really good objective holders. I like the Volkites were probably the champions of that tournament for me. They played really well on the scenarios we played and to hold home objectives. As I discussed before, I think like, let's say the Volkites, they face something like Shadowstalkers, they face something like Kinnerai. They're not going to die to them. And on the other hand, Arcanauts might do. So I think Volkites, they were really good. They were really good for what they're doing for 140 points, 20 wounds. Other than that, this list, I mean, it has the Durable Suit as a general. I can tell you, for people who don't know, I guess we can go through what Barak Thryng actually does. I mean, you have an ability which allows you to, 1 in every 4 unit can be a Duardin unit. So in this case, I actually have 11 drops. So people might wonder why do you have 3 Duardin units that are not KO. What you can do is, unlike in Cities of Sigmar, is you can actually ally in another dwarf, which is completely legal. Probably should get FAQ. So you can just ally your support heroes while your real units, real other dwarf units actually get the keywords because they do get the keywords. So that's one thing they can do. They also have another pretty decent ability. Every Skyfarer, so sadly not the Hearthguard and Volkites and ships, can fight on a 4+ when they die. So that goes for the Arcanauts and the Endriggers. And the general. And the general command trait is, which is you're forced to take, unfortunately. He can fight on a 2+ when he dies. And the artifact gives +1 to hit, and it's synchronized with probably the best ability in the sub-faction. At the start of the battle, you can pick 3 targets, and your entire army, which has the Barak Thryng keyword, can reroll hit rolls of 1. It's amazing. And this Grudge Hammer synchronized with that. You deal some extra mortal wounds if you roll 6s wound against a grudge target. And they also have one of my favorite things, which is why I'm actually able to deal, as you've seen, and we're going to look through later in the list versus some of the opponents I faced. You have an ability which allows you to get exploding 6s in the shooting phase or in melee phase once per battle, which is just so good with grudge target and either triumph or wound rerolls on the gold, because exploding 6s on Ironclad is quite mental, especially if you shoot the carbines and the shrapnel. 14 shots, exploding 6s, rerolling once. I usually end up with more shots than I started with if I spend the gold and do the combo. So pretty amazing. And then you have the 2 gun orders in the list, 2 with a sky cannon for a bit more of a harassment unit, and then the drill cannon, which usually, and then the clutch moments where you have to have something high rend or kind of need to harass something down a little bit with a more reliable way, which has a good save, came in cool with clutch, and it can do that from holding a home objective or another objective, which is cool. And the Riggers are just there. They're probably the most disappointing one in this list when I played it in the tournament. But yeah, that's the list. Now I went through the whole list. Sorry.
So yeah, a few questions.
Yeah.
So one question was the jury cannon on one of the 3 gun holders, and you explained why, and I understand and I see that. Why pole axis over broad axis?
Because with pole axis, especially when I play now, when Archeon has become more prevalent, broad axis might be better, but at the same time I only get access to 1 rend, right? And broad axis can be so good with exploding 6s. It's bonkers. But to deal with threats like Idenef, for instance, I feel like pole axis does way more. Same thing with versus a lot of other armies with good saves and so on. It's just it's up in the air. You can go pole axis, you can go broad axis. Depends how you want to use the Hearthguard, I would say. What's the main focus of the Hearthguard? Because it's not just to do damage. I use them to screen my Ironclad sometimes, to just hold objectives, string out, and they're a terrible thing to charge for the opponent usually. So one thing I came to the conclusion after tournament, I didn't use Last Word a single time. So that's gone in the future. I'm probably not going to use it again in this list because I play very aggressive with my ships.
So you probably replace it with the Battle Ram
Exactly.
Get some mortal wounds out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So just for people who don't know, poleaxes deal 2 additional mortal wounds on a hit of 6, whereas broadaxes have 1 rend and deal 2 damage.
Also, broadaxes get way more hindered by geminids, which is everywhere right now, than poleaxes. Poleaxes suffer from it as well.
Yeah, although then with the Wounds Matter prayer, rerolling all wounds, you can more or less balance.
I think both suffer, but geminids is just bonkers. But
Yeah.
I think poleaxes overall, because as I said, it does well versus some of your counter armies like Idoneth or Blight King spam. Or
it's a source of mortal wounds, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably worth unpacking as well that the exploding 6s that you can get from Thryng won't be mortal wounds as well.
That's another thing.
Yeah, that's why broadaxes sometimes would swing higher, but I usually use the exploding 6s on the ironclad because I find it's so good to kill these key targets like a Great Unclean one or a Lord of Change, or he has to do a massive amount of burst damage. I killed once. I killed 8 iron guts with a 1 ironclad.
Wow.
With a charge together with that, but still. 8.
Okay. And another question is why hand axes and sling shields on berserkers?
Kind of explained it before. The role is to be home objective holders, and things that come and attack home objective holders are usually don't have a good save, as I said, harpies or shadow stalkers or something similar. So I don't feel like I want to run. I want more reliable way of dealing with the damage. So freeze and freeze I find better than freeze and 4, even though it has 1 rend. So that was my general thought about going hand axes. Could go dual axes, but then once again, they're usually sitting at home.
I would have gone war pigs.
Yeah, you're going with pigs. Yeah, it was up in the air. I was like, what's the role of these Volkites in my army? What are they going to do? And what are they most likely going to face? And I'm quite happy about it. I went hand axes. I think it performed quite well for what they did. Usually they just took a beating, but still,
Yeah. I see it. But again, because you went poleaxes with the berserkers, so you're not going to spend a reroll wounds prayer from the runesmiter on them because then they don't have rent and do 1 damage.
They're usually not in the same. They're usually not very close to each other. Usually they fulfill different roles when I play.
Okay. So the idea would have been to use the reroll wounds on the berserkers, and that would
I find the reroll wounds just I find reroll wounds just a bonus, but it actually adds even a pole actually adds quite a bit of damage. Because since it's additional damage on the 6s and reroll 1s, it actually adds quite a bit. But I can see your point. The broadaxes, I've been tossing it up in the air, but as I said, one of the strongest counter to me is probably Idoneth. But at the same time, now when Arcane is so prevalent, I think that broadaxes might be a bit better in the meta. I have 20 of each at home, so I can.
Should every good Fire Slayer player have?
Yeah.
20 of each.
But yeah, that I can see your reasoning, and I had a tough time deciding as well. So don't you worry.
I mean, obviously it worked out for you.
Yeah.
So one other question.
One other thing though, the half guards versus KO mirror poleaxes are superior to broadaxes.
Right, okay. Well, we'll probably come into that in a minute when we talk about one of your games. But the Runesmiter, one thing about him that we didn't really mention that much because we talked about his prayer, but one of the most important things about him.
That's the reason you picked him.
is the fact that he lets himself and then another unit, which Fire Slayers unit, which I assume is normally going to be the half guard berserkers.
It's always the half guards. Sometimes it's just him himself. I don't always tunnel. Some games I just tunnel him to protect him while I have the half guards on the ground. I did that in game 1, for instance.
Okay.
I just had him tunneled while the half guards. It was a focal point, so the half guards were set up normally. So you don't always tunnel, but yeah, he can deep strike a unit with a Fire Slayer unit.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Because he allows you to tunnel himself and then another unit. So it sounds like most of the time you're tunneling the half-guard berserkers?
95 out of 100.
Okay.
If I'm tunneling, yeah.
And then you mentioned about using them to sometimes screen the ironclad. So is that a typical play, or will they sometimes go elsewhere?
It depends who you face. Like, for instance, I played in another tournament. It didn't go too well because I played a double ironclad Barak Thryng list with Halfguard Berserker and so on. I was the favorite to win, but I felt I lost 2 games because I felt like I had real bad rolls, and that list was so. It was more like a standard KO. You rolled bad, and you kind of lose the game. And because when the ironclad rolls bad, it's at 480 points that rolls bad, right? Mm-hmm. So, and when you had 2 of them, it was just not very pleasant.
Oh.
So, but I did board wipe in a friendly game. Hermdar player with that list. With 2 ironclads, 20 half-guards, and some other stuff. And then I used them versus those type of matchup, like another Fire Slayer matchup who tunnels a lot. I use them as a shield. Versus Blight Kings, I can use them as a shield as well. But generally, they are supposed to be this. Because I usually tell my opponents the half-guard's a bit of a trap when you play against me. You have to devote, depending on what you play, but usually armies have to devote a lot of resources to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And then they don't target my ironclad, they don't target my other ships, and they don't target my general and so on. So, because they're only 400 points. You got to remember that. They're only 400 points for such a heavy beat stick.
Yeah, that's 400 points for 40 wounds. With a
80 wounds if you don't kill. Yeah. It's pretty much 80 wounds if you don't kill the smiter.
Yeah.
So basically,
when the smiter's there, they get the 4+ after save.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And by playing Kharadron, you can protect him better because you can kill the threats to him in an easier way.
Yeah, just pop them up with cannons.
Mm-hmm.
But conversely, the ironclad is 480 points for 18 wounds. So
it's more fragile.
Yeah.
But on a rerollable 3+ save.
Yeah, but then you face mortal wounds, and it's
mortal wounds will just kill you.
Yeah, anyway. So that's usually where I protect my ironclad with half-guards. That thing is, I can protect them. The thing about having the half-guards, I think the Honest Wargamer had a good point on when he went through my lists. The half-guards can be on one place, and then you can devote all. That's pretty much what I do. I spearhead a lot in this army. You can devote your entire army in one spot, but then you can move like 60-70% of your army to another spot and fight on that place. Which I find really good. Which is something KO can do that KO can do that all the time, but they usually don't have the presence on an objective, which you get with the half-guards, and to the extent in this army with Vulkite. So I like this list. I felt that like this list had a lot of control. I did some modifications after tournament, which I think I have a better version of it now, but I liked it. And as it was a joy to play.
So because you alluded to some of your changes. So you did change it up for the Hammertime tournament. But before we go on to that, let's talk about
that's a completely different version, pretty much. Yeah. I changed this version. I just did some minor tweaks.
Right. Oh, okay. Right. So different to the Hammertime version then.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what were the minor tweaks you made to this?
Well, as I mentioned, the ironclad has the battering ram.
Yeah.
I also pretty much removed the engine riggers and the durable suit, added in the engine master with engine harness as a general, and removed also gunholder, I think, and added a frigate because I felt like in that way I have 3 Tzeentch Arcanauts, but 2 of them can be in each ship. So the third one can be this screening unit together with Vulkites. While I think I don't need a durable suit, I felt in that tournament like having a guy on the ship would have been stronger than having one next to it who can be more easily sniped. So because I felt in some games like I wanted to heal up my ironclad, but I couldn't because so I feel like that was a change. That was mainly pretty much the changes. So riggers out, durable suit out, in with engine master and harness, and 1 gunholder out, and in with a frigate. Also less points, so bigger chance of a triumph.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2,000 on the nose with this one.
Yeah, so never triumph, and I realized triumph is so strong in Thryng. It's so good. That gives you pretty much a free gold because all the things you can get. Reroll hits is amazing, even on the Halfguard Poleaxes. Then you can actually one-shot Archeon. So, yes, reroll everything. But yeah, so those are tweaks. But yeah, let's move on.
I mean, yeah, if you can get reroll hits and then combine that with the footnote for the exploding sixes.
Now, what I usually do is if I get reroll saves or wounds on Triumph, I usually use. Let's say I get reroll wounds. I usually use that Triumph together with. I'm quite cautious when I with a gold. I prefer using it defensively in some matchups. I prefer using it offensively in some matchups. Depends what you face. But so I usually don't use something on hit because usually the thing you want to kill hard is a grudge target. So you already reroll once. Sometimes if you have minus to hit, you might want to use a Triumph if you have hit Triumph on the hit. But otherwise, it's just twos that are missing pretty much. So I prefer using it on wound. But yeah, that's.
Yeah. Okay. So typically then for your gold, I mean, do you do what a lot of players do and you use it to reroll saves on your ship and stuff like that?
It depends. It depends what I'm facing, especially with the gun holders. Sometimes, because I play very aggressive, like I'm just going to mention a game we're not going to talk too much about. But in my first game, I played versus 320 wounds of Savage Oryx on focal points. What my gun holders did is they had 3 massive stacks of these Orc Savage Oryx. Yeah, Orc boys, the normal regular boys, and 2 stacks of 30 archers and some heroes. What my gun holders did all game was, I love that once per battle 18 movement on the gun holder. I think it's overlooked a lot. I think a lot of people overlook it. I used that turn 1 when it was my turn 1 on both my gun holders. Tied up his archer stacks on the flank with 2 gun holders, and just used the gold defensively when he had to shoot at him. I charge in my gun holders in everything. I charge him in the Blight Kings. I charge them into orcs, art boys. Everything. It's just if I see an opening where I can pin my opponent and they can only pile in with like 3 models, I charge the gun holder in. I just love the model. It's such a flexible harassment model, and it doesn't bracket. It's 130 points for 10 wounds with decent shooting if you roll well. Can drop a bomb on a 4+, and it doesn't bracket. I think it's just amazing. It also gives a shrug to an Ironclad if you have it close, if you need to protect the Ironclad from some heavy shooting or mortals. I just love the model. It's so good, in my opinion. It also gets a gold, as I said. Like, you can pin anything. But
pinning is a really great tactic you can use in a game.
Especially when you have the Halfguard as a center in this list. You have it as a center, as like a spearhead. And then you have the gun holders pinning other threats down while your Ironclad does the heavy lifting. Ironclad, I usually use the gold more offensively, depending on what I'm facing. But sometimes I use it defensively when I know I'm going to take a lower beating on it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some of the games. So because there's 2 tournaments effectively we're talking about. We're not going to go through every game. So we've selected 2 from the first tournament and 2 from the second tournament. So the first one we kind of had to pick because you played against Kharadron Overlords. So we couldn't be. We can't be a self-respecting Kharadron Overlords show and not talk about you playing against Kharadron Overlords. So you played against a Zilfin list, Thomas Henriksen, who I think is in the Facebook group. Fairly sure I've seen him posting and stuff. So this is almost a typical Zilfin list. I mean, normally you might not see a frigate, but it's low drop and it's got a Warp Lightning Vortex. And it's Zilfin. So it's not necessarily like the well-known version.
It has an extra chemist, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why. What's the reason behind that? But
needs just 3 heroes, and you want to maybe to be below 2,000 points.
Yeah. So he had a dirigible suit general. Great Tinkerer, which is a decent combo. Someone gets extra shots, isn't it? Chemist was spelling the bottle. We mentioned another chemist as well. 10 Arcanauts, 2 units of 6 riggers, and then the frigate, 10 Thunderers with rifles and 2 fumigators, and then an Ironclad with the battle ram, Iron Sky Command, Warp Lightning Vortex. So
interesting pick is the volley cannon.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, overall, it does most damage.
Yeah,
damage.
He did roll really well on it, I can tell you that. He one-shotted my Ironclad with it, pretty much.
Yeah, it depends what you're expecting to come up as well, because if you're expecting to come up against a lot of Coalesced Seraphon, then it's probably a better pick as well. I don't know what they... but, it could be...
It's a bit of a casino gun, pretty much.
Yes. So, and then I can't remember what you played this.
Total Conquest.
Total Conquest. So, obviously, he outdropped you, and then he also got a Triumph as well.
Yep.
But what did you select from his list to grudge?
Quite interesting, actually. You might think the Ironclad, right? No. My grudge targets were, because I was like this. If you go back to the Total Conquest, you have a little box you deploy in, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I knew he was going to be very aggressive. So what I did is I screened him out with my Arcanauts and my one gun hauler and the Volkites. But my grudge targets were actually the 2 Ender Rigger stacks, were two of them. I think the last one was the General, or if it was the Thunderers. I think it was the Thunderers. Because I knew I needed to kill bodies, right?
Yeah.
So the 2 stacks of Ender Riggers and Thunderers, I think, were my grudge targets.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so did he make you go first?
No, he started.
Okay.
And I don't know how I came back. He did 21 or 22 mortals with his Vortex, and he did excellent shooting. So my Volkites were gone. I had a gun holder gone. He managed to snipe 2 of my Riggers. He managed to damage another gun holder, and Arcanauts died instantly by the Vortex. He did 6 and 6. I think he did 12 mortals on the Arcanauts, and even his chemist, even his chemist killed 3 or 4 Volkites. That's 8 damage on a chemist.
Yeah, that's insane.
So yeah, you lost a lot then. Did you lose all of your half guard?
What?
Did you lose all of the
No. Volkites. The half guard. That's the thing with the smiter when you can deep strike. They were safe as they could be.
So that was going to be my follow-up question. Was what was the reasoning for not having them off the table?
No. Volkites.
No, you did have them off the table. The Volkites.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
My meat shield.
Okay.
All right. Yep. So that was his first turn, and they killed quite a bit. He rolled very well. But that's Zilfin, you know. Anything else you want to know in the start? What happened in his turn? Or?
I mean, where did he? I'd be interested to know, like, where was his Warp Lightning Vortex? Was it over your objective, or
pretty much? I had like my important things, like my Ironclad, my General, the Riggers, which he managed to snipe with a long shot, and 2 gun holders that they're in the back, I think, and the 10 Arcanauts on the ship in the corner, in my deployment corner.
Yeah.
And then I had stretched out as much as I could my Arcanauts, and I had a 1 gun holder in the middle on my objective, just in the center, just to screen out so you just couldn't land in the middle of my zone, and just and then 10 Volkites. So he didn't get to hit much. So if you look at the picture, I was in the purple zone. So the Volkites were on the north side, together with 1 gun holder. No, they were on the north side. The gun holder was in the middle, and the Arcanauts were on the left side.
Yeah, so you kind of had.
Yeah, exactly.
This sort of thing going on.
And then I had my things and my Ironclad in the left corner, right corner. Right corner.
It's down here.
Yeah.
So did he put the Vortex there?
He put it so he could hit.
That's not a triangle.
Yeah, but he was only able to hit with one Vortex on each unit. Yeah, so he was like, "You did this. You did your home." He pretty much said, "You did your homework." Yeah, pretty much like that.
Yeah.
So
okay,
and he still managed to do 21 mortals.
Let's go rolling.
Yeah, that is strong rolling. But it's also what I was mostly wanting to know was whether it's on the objective, because then that's
It was.
then puts you in a decision of like, well, if I want to get my objective back, I'm going to have to sit in a warp lightning vortex.
Nah, I didn't have to. It wasn't left for him. It was more on the northern side of the objective.
Okay, so you could sort of get onto it without.
Yeah. So you want to know the disheartening thing that happened in my first turn?
Yes.
Like, I don't pay for any extra command points in this list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had an engine rigger who had to roll a 2 on the run to capture my home objective because my gunholder died in the first turn by shooting as well. I rolled a 1. And I was like, I really need this point. So I had to spend a command point to move 1 extra inch because I rolled a 1 on that engine rigger, and I was like, this is a good start. But since he went so aggro, I picked off my gunholders, killed his Arcanauts, and took the objective. On the white, I kind of like different colors. Left of my deployment zone, he had stretched out his Arcanauts between those 2 objectives. His on the west side. If you know what I'm saying.
Wait, so sorry,
on the left on the left side, he had stretched his Arcanaut on both of those objectives. Big greedy. Yeah. So he stretched them out in a long
down like this.
Yeah, exactly. So I started picking them off with my gunholders, and I actually the center of his force was north of my, just above my deployment zone. On that objective, exactly. This objective, and then he had a little bit smaller force with his general and the Mars with durable suit and the 6 riggers on the far right, just on inside my deployment zone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I did was, I shot down those riggers. I also damaged his with my ironclad. Now I damaged his thunderers quite heavily as well. I think he had 2 left or something. And I also tunneled in my Hearthguard north of his home objective, in between the zones.
Right, so up here.
Yeah, and there was a nasty entangling, so I had to do a very sketchy deep strike. But I managed to sneak in. 2 Hearthguards and the Lord on his home objective. So I managed to get 3 points out of that. Yeah, pretty much like that. Yeah, and then I had a long line up to the. Pretty much up to the edge of the map and in the north side.
Okay, so you actually sort of stretched them out like this then?
Yeah, something like that. A little bit even more sketchy than that, because it was an entangling with tents and a big oasis pool or something. It was super sketchy. And I attempted a charge. I failed it. But what kind of saved me the game is I got the double.
Yeah.
I think I could still have won because I killed a lot of his things. But that's the way Zilfin works, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys. What's your thoughts? When they go all in like that, they deserve to get punished by a double turn.
Yeah, I'd say, as someone who plays Zilfin a lot, if I can, I go second. Zilfin should be turn 1, sitting in their corner, letting their opponent come out and spread out and do whatever they want. Then then on the bottom of turn 1, you come in, you do your damage, and you just wait for that double turn, just steamroll.
Yeah, because
you only go first if there's something valuable. Like, you can take out Teclis before he gets his wards up or something like that.
Like, they put Croak out by himself, and you're like, okay, but I could just kill that.
Yeah,
I guess.
Croak or Archeon without his reroll saves yet, or something like that.
Yeah.
You still don't kill Archeon, I think, even without his reroll save.
Archeon is easy to kill.
But I think in this situation, he deserved it because he went all out. So I got my Hearthguards in, killed his other riggers, killed all his Wanderers, killed his Chemist, killed his General, almost killed his Frigate with my Gunholder. And I was ahead in points. It was, but then something happened. I didn't go for his Ironclad. So he had 2 things left. He had 3 things left. He had his Ironclad, because I didn't reach it with my Hearthguards because I didn't got a long charge because I had a sketchy entangling I had to watch out for. He had his Ironclad, and then he has his frigate and 1 chemist. That's what he had left.
Yeah.
But since he had a Triumph, he also spent the gold and Triumph and rolled very high on the volley gun and killed my Ironclad in 1 go. Then he charged my general and made the charge, a very long charge, and killed him with mortals and a bomb because he rolled very high. Then he tried with the frigate. He tried to kill my gunhole with his frigate, but he failed. And I still had all my half guards left, so I was in very good position. Very good, even though I had lost a lot. I think I won the prio to turn 3. And not much happened. I just sat on the objectives because he was too far away, and just scored points,
Yeah.
And scoring my auxiliaries as well because we play with auxiliaries.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much over. We discussed we were going to play through. Might as well. We had a little fun ending though. He tried to grab my home objective with his. Actually, the lone engine rigger kind of saved the day as well. He went to the bottom left objective and took it.
Did he have to run?
Twice.
Yeah, did he make up for his earlier run rolls?
Yeah, he rolled a 5 if I remember correctly. But yeah, and I think it was in the second last when it was already over. It wasn't. Yeah, it was kind of over. He tried to grab my home objective with his frigate, and he died by his own vortex.
Oh no!
Classic.
Yeah. The amount of times I've hit my Ironclad with that vortex, or just killed a chemist or something.
Another reason why I don't use vortex anymore. I charge my stuff inside, and they just blew themselves up.
Yeah, but so I won that game, and I managed to score both my auxiliaries. He scored. I think he managed to score both as well. And I actually got board wiped in the end. He managed to kill all the half cards, but I won on points because I killed all his bodies, and I had mine left, apart from my initial all kites and so on. So I think bodies won me that game. I think I could have won without the double as well, but I think I needed a double sometime during that game, considering how oppressive that Zilfin list is when you roll well, even though I screened out well. But yeah, that's my thought on that game. And that's how it went.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like the way he lost is the way KO often does lose, at least when it's a Zilfin list.
Exactly.
And not even just Zilfin lists, but a lot of typical KO lists.
When you play too aggressively and you just you overextend and then get countered really hard, and then
I overextended a little bit as well. I actually went for the double. That's why I was so aggressive with the half cards. I was a bit greedy. I wanted both the objective and being able to get the double or charge. Because I failed the first charge. But I can tell you one thing in my list that we didn't mention before. This list creates a lot of issues for my opponent if they want to go first. First thing is, I can screen them off quite well. I have a lot of bodies to screen them off. Secondly, if I'm tunneling my half guards and threatening one of their key pieces, I have two chances of hitting the charge. I also have a big chance of getting the double. That's a lot of threats they have to consider. Potential risks. I would say this list is more risk. Another one I played in Hammertime we're going to talk about later is more control. But yeah, it gives them a lot of questions they have to think about. But yeah, but KO versus KO is what it comes down a lot to the priority level, in my opinion. Even my Thryng list here, because it was quite heavy into ships.
Comes down to which Ironclad goes down first.
Mine went down first.
Who uses their gold on the Ironclad first? Basically, that kind of stalemate.
I think when he killed my Ironclad, he got 21 shots out of his volley gun.
There's an interesting thing as well with you having the half guard off the table. It's like if he lets you go first, you could just completely be like, well, this objective is mine now. Pretty much.
Pretty much two objectives. I can string them out very easily versus Kharadron.
Yeah. And it would take a while to shift them. So, yeah. It's and then I mean, if you claim 2 objectives with half guard and then I don't know. I mean, then it's like how quickly can he kill them?
Yeah, it's a race against the clock.
Yeah.
It took him until last turn, and then they killed him.
Mm-hmm. Did the leaders scoring extra come into the game at all much, or?
For me personally, yes, because I had my Runesmiter on that objective for like 2 or 3 turns. 3 turns, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me an extra 3 points.
Yeah.
Him on the other hand, I think he only got 1 extra point of his leader because he got a chemist, the lone chemist, which I think is really strong in Zilfin. You have order around 6 all the time, so they're not that slow. So he managed to get that one in and land, but yeah, it came into play. But I only had 2 lords in my list. Remember that, so
yeah.
So
yeah, okay. Any other questions, Marcus, about this game before we move on?
No, let's check out the next one.
It was pretty much a straightforward Zilfin list versus me, so
Okay.
all the...
So the next game we have to talk about is Nurgle.
The Grindfest.
Yeah, so this list is piloted by Tyler Pearson, also known as Buckets.
He's a very good player.
Discord, in the AOS Coach Discord, he's got quite often on there. So it's Blessed Sons, Blight Cyst Battalion, Great Unclean One, Lord of Blights, Be'lakor, which you are obviously using the what are now old rules for Be'lakor, but
as of yesterday.
Yeah, as of yesterday. But 2 units of 20 Blight Kings, and then 5 more Blight Kings. So lots of Blight Kings basically, and then Be'lakor, which is messing around with your Ironclad or potentially your Halfguard Berserkers.
No, he can't target. He can't target my Halfguard because you're underground.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So did he target your Ironclad then?
I actually think he didn't. He targeted my Volkais for some reason.
Okay. Interesting.
He wanted to get a big point lead because it was on the abyssal map of Blade's Edge.
Yeah. Because Blade's Edge, if you it's one of the rare ones where you kind of do want to go first if you outdrop potentially, because the way the objectives are removed means if you get ahead enough, it's almost impossible to come back. So he outdropped you again?
Yeah.
3 drops. So did he take first, or did he make you go first?
He took first. And he managed to get 7 summoning points, so he actually managed to get all the objectives because he could summon in some Plague Bearers to catch the last ones. So that was pretty much his first turn, right? Spreading out with his humongous stacks of Blight Kings. And the Great Unclean One with a Wither Stave, for those who don't know, I have to reroll. If I'm within 12, I have to reroll 6s, just like Archeon has. And then he has another thing on his Lord of Blight. Had it this time. Well, he can give a buff to a unit with a command ability, so I get -2 to hit with ranged weapons. -2. So yeah, bit of a grind fest. We were both tired because this was the 3rd game of the day. We were a bit tired, both of us. And well, you want me to take you through it, or you have any other questions?
Which units did you grudge?
Obviously, Great Unclean One. I think I grudged the center stack of Blight Kings. And I think it was Lord of Blights as well, because I knew his command ability had to
go away.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. And then deployment wise, how did you deploy in a corner, or did you sort of spread some of your bodies around?
I spread them out. I did spread them out because his threat range is like 28, I think. Blight Kings aren't slow. They are so fast. They can run and charge, and they get plus movement from Great Unclean One, etc., etc. So really fast. So I had some Arcanauts just out of threat range that could get on the objective easily, etc. And I spread it out.
Yeah. And I think you basically mentioned he had at least one unit of Blight Kings in the middle. I assume the other one was on a flank.
Yeah, and one on and then the third one was on another flank with the Lord of Blight.
The smaller one,
Yeah. And he had Bellicor as well, going up and capturing objectives. So it pretty much went forward, doing the conga lines, and he was just ready to sit there and let me grind it out. I think I made a mistake with the deployment. I think I shouldn't have tunneled my Hearthguards.
Right.
Okay.
Was he able to screen you out pretty
No, kinda and kinda not. In his first turn, as I said, he managed to get all 6 points, right? And I knew I was going to be on the back foot. And I knew if I get the double, I might pass it, so I don't have to burn an objective. But depending how the shooting goes, I might have to take it, right? And guess what happened? I left the Great Unclean One with 2 health left. And then we had charge phase, and I managed to charge with a reroll my Hearthguards into its Blight Kings. But guess what? I was in Wither stave range, so reroll those 6s. So that wasn't very pleasant. I got the double. I took it because I had to deal with Great Unclean One. So he burned an objective. So, by the way, in the first turn, I managed to score my home objectives. I scored 3 points.
Yeah.
I killed Bellicor as well.
Okay.
And I did kill his summoning stack. His summon stack. And I kind of prepared to lock him up with his small stack. So in my turn 2, I charged in two gun holders, pinned both his. I charged in his Lord of Blight with my gun holder. I don't know why. I killed his Great Unclean One. My Hearthguards did some heavy lifting. I managed to capture quite a few points, and he got a bit scared. The thing is, I couldn't target his mid stack because he still had -2 to hit or shooting, right? So what I did is, he wasn't really on my middle objective, pretty much. If you have your cursor like you did before with the painting, right at the top of his Blight Kings were inside his one.
Yeah.
So what I did is I boxed him in because it was a lot of terrain. So the Ironclad is such a big base. So what I did is I stood on his tree so he wouldn't get summoning points.
Right.
And he couldn't summon onto the objective. I dropped up my Arcanauts in the double to hold that objective more safe as well. And I boxed him in with the Ironclad and the Gunholder so he couldn't get onto the objective. And that's where I kind of wish I had a battering ram once again. I did some shipping damage, killed the Great Unclean One, killed some stuff. Then he got the turn. He managed to score more points. And then the problem was I won the priority again. No, I think he won the priority. Yeah, he won the priority, but he gave me the turn. He gave me the turn, so he burned another objective.
Yeah. So I assume he was burning your objectives.
Yeah, exactly. My the 2 bottom ones in my home, and I kept killing stuff, but I didn't kill it fast enough. So it continued like that, and in between turn. The roll between turn 3 to 4, we were like, if I win the prio, I will win the game. If he would get the prio, he would win the game. And he got the double finally, and he won the game because I couldn't catch up because we only had 3 objectives left, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't come back. So that was that game. The good thing is I managed to score all my auxiliaries, and he managed to score 0. So that was good.
They gave you a few tournament points at least.
Yeah, 4. And so I got maximum out of that loss, pretty much, so to speak. But it was a bit of grind fest on a map that didn't favor me very well versus a matchup that didn't favor me.
The matchup not, but the map. If you have 20 Hearthguard Berserkers, the map's not too bad.
No, but as I said, that's why I think the mistake was tunneling, because I tunneled them on the right flank, because that's the only spot I really had the opening on.
Yeah.
And I feel like I shouldn't have tunneled them at all. But at the same time, if I wouldn't, Be'lakor could have targeted them, right? So it was a bit of a pickle, so to say. But yeah. So
interesting, because if you ever watch the little battle recap I did with Lee during the week, where I also played Thryng on this battle plan with 20 Earthguard, I had a very similar problem. Like I tunneled them, and then I had to tunnel them onto my home objective, like down south, because there was no other space, and I didn't want to put them on the flanks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, as I said, Be'lakor could just have, all right, you guys are not going to move, so what should I pick? And if I wouldn't have been able to tie him up on the flank, right? And I would still, even if I got a double, and if I didn't tunnel, he would have put that debuff, which also gives minus to hit in melee, not just shooting. So I don't know. It was a tough decision, but I think I played a game decently well. It was late, and it was the third game of the day, but I think I could have done better. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like. I don't know, like I can't think of the proper word to explain it, but it's like the culmination of like two bad things together, because it's a list you really got to grind against, and then on this battle plan is like the one battle plan that's the hardest one to grind against stuff with, because they can keep taking objectives away, so you can't catch up. So it's like any game if you go behind, can be a race against time. But a race against time when the objectives are disappearing is even worse.
Yeah.
And a race against time when the thing that you need to kill is really difficult to kill is also really bad. So, yeah. So, yeah, and that was the only loss of the tournament, though?
Yeah. The game afterwards, I faced a regular Tzeentch host at Forcing the Hand. Didn't look too good. I had it under control. I knew it was fine, but he was like, "You can't win this." He was up 10-2 after 2 rounds, and I was like, "Yes, of course I can." I won that game quite comfortably in the end versus a Tzeentch host on Forcing the Hand. And my last game was just a blow at victory, because poor Lumineth. They don't like Hearthguards in their face, do they? With poleaxes. And I had my gunholder tying up his 20 stack of sentinels. So enjoy killing a gunholder.
Yeah.
So we pretty much just had techless left after 2 rounds or something. So yeah. So I went 4-1 and ended third, which I was the best order as well.
As the one should be.
Yeah. The 2 top guys were Tzeentch and Tzeentch Archeon. Tzeentch chose won the tournament, and Tzeentch Archeon came second, I think. And then I came third. So yeah, it was a great time, great TOs, great people. That's actually where I started getting to know a lot of people as well in the scene here. This was back in February, I think. Or was it March? February, I think. Yeah, February. So yeah, great experience. We'll try to attend live next year, actually. We'll try to travel to Denmark and participate, because as I said, the TOs were great, the people were great, I had a great time.
Yeah.
It sounds because Battle for Copenhagen is one of the rare examples of a tournament that is normally a real tournament and then just moved itself to TTS, as opposed to there's a lot of TTS events that were just like newly created. So let's move on to the list that you used for Hammertime. So, and in Hammertime you went 5-0, so didn't lose the game.
I like the Celestin Prime.
But unfortunately come second.
Lost by 2 auxiliary points to Stephen Follows, which is a great man who played Archeon Tzeentch. We're going to have a showdown match tomorrow at 8 p.m. PST. BST, which will be streamed. I don't know where, but I heard it's going to be streamed. So yeah, it's going to be a blast. We're going to play our tournament lists. But yeah, it was a great tournament as well.
Yeah, I assume that'd be on Honest Wargamer, as they had lots of the other Hammertime games on.
They didn't show it because they showed the top table, Siege Arkham versus Siege Arkham. We were table 2, and the top table 1 was.
No, I meant for your game tomorrow.
Oh, we haven't asked him. Me and Steven came up with this today. So.
Oh, okay.
But we have some people who are going to watch, and we had a guy who won. I think it was Wargamer Online. I think who wanted to stream.
Oh, cool. I'll definitely tune in tomorrow night. Do some painting.
Yeah, we're going to play Forcing the Hand. So I think that map is in. It's going to be rough because I have Polaxis versus Archeon. But I think as our Australian chap, Kron said, Celestian Prime. Celestian Prime is a very good addition to my army, I think.
Yeah, he's an interesting piece because Max has used him a little bit. I've tried him myself. I'm interested to, before we talk about the rest of the list, how you feel about him, because I found that he comes in either too late, or if you bring him in early, he doesn't do enough. So, but then you have a more grindy list because you've got stuff that survives. So, how do you find it with him? Do you find that he does enough when he comes in, or?
I think it's the reason why I went 5-0.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different reasons. And I needed something to deal. Now I didn't actually face one, but I need something to deal with Croak. And Prime is a great way to deal with Croak, especially turn 3. I think he is very flexible. Very flexible. He can be an assassin, like he can go in turn 2 or turn 3 and kill an important piece. He can be this kind. Let's say you face a Fire Slayer who stack up their heroes. He can be this mortal wounds coming in turn 2, so he'll also do some damage. But usually, coming in turn 2, yes, doing these mortals with his ranged attack over a few turns, and these support heroes are gone. Especially comboed with some gun holder shooting, it's very good harassment. So I think, and he has an auto 12 charge if he spends that ability. Massive. And one thing that I think is overlooked, which I comboed very well against my opponents, is it's -2 bravery when it comes down. It's so good to combo with the damage from an Ironclad or something to battle shock something away.
Yeah, it's great that he has that basically auto 12-inch charge. So you have a guaranteed 24-inch threat range once he's down. Because usually things that come down, they come down, they destroy, and then that's where they are. But with him, he can just like jump on to the next target.
Yeah, he has shooting movement as well.
Run in there. So yeah, my experience was very similar at one tournament with the Prime. Basically won me the last game because he just jumped from objective to objective, cleared out 20 bloodletters by himself, captured the objective, jumped on to the next, did the same thing.
I think his ability is really strong as well. It's not just once per battle round, it's once per turn. So even if you don't kill what you're going into, you still have a free 6-up save from 1 dice, or even more damage if you need it. I do also combo him because, as we discussed earlier in the rumors, Kharadron usually don't spend a lot of command points, especially on my list. So I'll pretty much always spend a command point to reroll once on hits. Then it becomes 5 or 7 attacks, depending if I turn 2 or 2 free. Turn 2 or 3, that's usually when it comes in. Freeze to hit, rerolling once, 2 to wound, free rend, and that's important. Free rend. I don't have a lot of high rend in this army. Skyhook, Sky Cannon with a strong shot sometimes, and then flat free damage. So
and free rend will even get through some of the armies like Lumineth who ignore rend 1 and 2 at times with Yumetoka, I think. The rend will actually punch through those and the cows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think he's a solid piece for 300 points. He does a lot of lifting.
He's sorry. Do you want to go, Max? Or
no, I just want to add. Plus, he carries a dwarven hammer, so obviously he's.
especially if you convert him as a dwarf, right? That's even better.
Yeah, but the actual warhammer is
yeah, I know Galmaraz.
I just said I think the problem that he can have in some KO lists is that some KO lists are very like all the damage is focused on like the first 2 turns, and by turn 3 things are over. Whereas in your list, would you say it's fair to say that you're playing, at least 3 to 4 turns, maybe 5 turns?
I would say I play all 5 turns in this list.
Yeah.
I would say this list becomes the strongest in turn 3 because the way I can play it, especially the Aether Wings are a great addition. They can be these cheap. They fill few different functions. They can be a good screen, can be a good fast objective grabber, and also in the tournament they can score like auxiliaries like Vengeful Counter, which is usually kind of hard to score as KO. You just charge them into something and shoot something else down. And just let them die. So
and they're a bargain as well.
40 points. Yeah.
Maybe just for the people not watching but listening on the podcast, we should actually say what the list is.
Yes.
So we have an Ender Master with Ender Harness, so saved 90 points there. Obviously, he has to be the general, and he has to carry the artifact because he's the only KO hero in this list. We have Celestial Prime as an ally. We have the Runesmiter again.
This time not an ally.
This time not an ally because the Prime is the ally, and we only have 2 more Warden units other than KO. We have for the battle line then 3 sets of Arcana Company because there's basically no other way to fulfill your battle line requirements in Thryng if you don't have the dirigible as your general. 2 gun holders, both with sky cannons, the 20 Hearthguard with poleaxes, and 3 Aether Wings as allies. And then the Ironclad, this time with the Battle Ram and Great Sky Cannon.
And important note, 1970 points. So I always get the Triumph, very often get the Triumph, which is very good.
1970 is a great sort of place to be at with a list.
Yeah, definitely, with a KO list.
Because it's, 30 points under wall. I think it's like 75% of the time you will quite often get you a Triumph. And then,
and the Triumph is worth probably even more points than that. I think in this list, I think it's worth 50.
Definitely.
It's definitely worth probably more than 50 because if you compare it to command point, but it's also at 1970. You don't feel like I've wasted loads of points to get this Triumph. Do you know what I mean?
Not in a KO list, no. 1970 is that's how I built my Zilfin Thunderer list. It was that I get the extra Triumph to use on the Thunderers.
One question I have about the list is: do you switch to the Battle Ram on the Ironclad? Were you not tempted to switch to the Skyhook?
Yes, but then we have the problem we discussed before. If I'm going with Skyhook, that's another iteration of this list. If I'm going with Skyhook, the Hearthguards are broad axes. I need something that is good with Exploding Sixes because Prime can't use it because it's an ally.
Yeah. Exploding Sixes on the Prime would be.
yeah. But so with the Skyhook, you don't get as much mileage out of the Exploding Sixes as you get with Sky Cannon plus Shrapnel plus Carbines plus Torpedoes. It's just madness.
Yeah.
I also like. Go on.
You're just missing the amount of dice. Although, have you ever tried running the volley cannon with Exploding Sixes?
I tried it out mathematically, but it's too much of a slot machine.
Yeah.
It's
I like reliability, and I wanna force my opponent to make mistakes. And if it's just that's the same thing. I already have this casino thing on these sky cannons on the gun holders. It's just D6, either D6 damage or D6 attacks.
So, the trouble is with the volley gunners, you could roll potentially 4 for your attacks, couldn't you? It'd be very, very. It's just.
I mean, you could.
Yeah. I mean,
average is 14 though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at like a regular damage without any buffs or debuffs, but with reroll ones to hit because of a grudge target and exploding 6s and gold on wound or triumph, you're generally looking at. You start with 14 dices on those. Now we're not even talking torpedoes. You start with 14 dices. You generally end up with between 10 to 17, which they have to save.
Mm-hmm.
After wound roll, so it's usually I spiked so hard with it. Sometimes it's insane.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can whiff, but then you have to roll a lot of 2s if you want to whiff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So
I would also like, as you saw, I changed my general. I've been told by people before tournaments, like, why would you put a grudge hammer on him? Because he already does more on 6s on a hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
He does flat 3 mortals on 6s to hit, but the hammer gives him +1 to hit. And if I don't roll a lot of 6s and I hit a grudge target, he also does D3 mortals and additional on 6s on wound to add in normal damage. I've had that
plus
guy.
He only has 3 attacks.
Yeah, so I done more mortals on 6s on wound usually than on the first one. So he's a beast.
Yeah.
And plus he's in the ship all the time, so he gives. That's what who was it with Skyhook? Kron, right?
Oh, yeah.
You said if I wanted a Skyhook, right? It's really fun running.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was Lee. Running Skyhook with battering ram plus that guy on top plus dropping a bomb plus it's fun.
You should see my zone list. Just give him +2 attacks.
Yeah, with the cogs. Bound cogs.
Give him +2 attacks, 5 attacks, rerolling ones, and then a 6 is 3 mortals. Yeah. That's the aggressive version. Yeah, cool. I know. I see it. I like it. Plus, he's a bit, safer with a +1 save and -1.
He is at the ship. I also had him jump out sometimes, not in the tournament, but otherwise jump out and just kill that last thing versus my brother-in-law, kill his turtle, pretty much, and the Ironclad flies away and does something else.
The other thing that the difference between this list and the first list is, in some ways, the Celestian Prime takes up the role that you kind of had with the old Endrin Master, with you got like a flying hero that can go in and do some damage,
but much more reliable.
But the other important thing is because he can deploy off the board as well, your first 3 drops can all be stuff not on the table.
Yeah,
exactly. That's my opponents during the tournament said, I have so many threats, it's hard to play against because it forces them to be more cautious than they want to be. I will also, one minor thing about the Prime, which actually a lot of people think about, because Arcanum Company, when they spend gold, their bravery is shit. So he actually gives 1+ to bravery as well in a pretty big bubble.
Yeah.
So it's not big, but it's something. I mean, he does a lot of things. And as I said, the minus bravery is just so good.
Before I made that point, I was almost going to say you have more threats here than the previous list, and then I realized, the Celestian Prime is kind of doing the same role, but he does do it better. Like he's
protected.
Yes, and that was the other thing. Yeah, it was just like by being off the table, like the dirigible suit could be sort of sniped out. Whereas now you have the Endrin Master in the ship, which is harder to to take out. And then the Prime is off the table. So
yeah, and I would say the best thing as well is it forces your opponent to dedicate resources if they don't want to have him behind and taking out key pieces. They have to devote resources to stop something, which is very hard to stop. And it creates an uncomfortable feeling for them, I would say.
And then combined with the half guard, there's a fair decent amount of melee in this list, really.
Yes.
And the Aether Wings almost feel like they're filling the role of the riggers from the first list in some ways.
But cheaper, and I don't care if they die.
Yeah, a lot cheaper. So, I mean, I think this is definitely a strong evolution of the first list.
Yeah. I had a middle ground with another list, I said, but then I started looking for, I need something to deal with, like Croak or other units, like support heroes, because people might think, like, oh, it's easy to kill support heroes, but once your Ironclad whiffs, you don't have much else to kill them with in a Thryng list. So I feel like I needed something, and I wanted some. I wanted. What I like about him, as I said, he fulfills a role. He's an assassin. He can kill support heroes. He can do a little bit of minor bravery bomb. He's great. One thing, he dies real fast to spells when after he comes down. So he has to. You have to take when he comes down. He has to do what he's supposed to do. Otherwise, he usually dies.
The Celestine Prime is a glass cannon. He'll die if anything looks at him funny.
Not true. I mean, it's still a free up save and 8 wounds, but spells, immortals,
Still,
because you're not using gold much, you can give him reroll ones to save as well.
That's why
he can just put it on himself.
You mean CP?
Yeah, with a command point, he can.
Yeah, not gold.
He can just put it on himself.
It just seems insane that the Celestine Prime, like the big Stormcast, is just about as tough as one of our dirigible suits.
It just shows how awesome Dwarden are.
Yeah, they are. The best.
Plus, you can make a Dwarden a little Celestine. Give him that trait where he can jump around like a gun hauler.
Yeah.
Teleport.
Okay, so let's look at a couple of the games that you played with this list. So the first one we have to talk about is Nurgle again.
Oh, we're back on Nurgle.
And it's the same list.
Oh.
So we don't have to go through the list.
And the same player.
Yes, the same player. The same list and the same player in 2 different tournaments. So
I would actually like to point out in my first game of this tournament, I also faced this list without Bellacordo, which I won quite comfortably. I was on Star Strike, which I think favors my army so much. Prime coming in turn 3, buffed up, and I just bravery bombed his Blight Kings. Like 4 of them running.
Yeah, because they start running, that's 4 wounds apiece. Yeah, that's a big deal.
4 or 5.
So the guy. This is the fun part.
They 5 wounds? I can't remember.
They have 4 wounds, and the leader is 5.
Yeah, the leader. He's not going to choose the leader to run away, is he?
Yeah.
No, the leader usually dies as the first because they start picking wounds from the leader because he has 5. When things start dying.
The fun thing about Tyler and me here is he only lost to me in this tournament. I only lost to him in the last one, and he lost to me. This was game 5. So whoever won this went 5-0, and I managed to win.
Okay.
This was also on Total Conquest.
Yes, which we've talked about before, but
at least you had a different mission. At least you weren't playing the same list on the same mission.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert, you won this one.
Spoilers, jeez.
Yeah. How much of it do you think was down to the battle plan being different? How much do you think was down to maybe the tweaks to your list?
Both a lot. I think the battle plan was not bad for him because his army is so fast, which we're gonna go through here in the fun section while we talk about the match. But I would say the list I tweaked. I have 3. The reason why I picked Prime as well, because we knew in the pack which maps we were getting beforehand, right? So in game 2 we had Scorched Earth, where I faced 210 Skaven Stormvermins or whatever. And Prime is also a hero, right? So he can burn the objectives. And Prime is also a hero here, so he scores me an extra point. So that just adds even more to what I wanted from him. Like, he's really good. But yeah, I think, as you said, I think the mission is better. It is better. And I think my list is better.
Okay, so let's just talk about the game then. So again, he outdropped you because we didn't mention the drops, but this list
11.
is 11. Was your first one 11 as well?
Yeah.
So same number of drops, so still 11. And did we mention the wounds? This one is slightly less wounds than the one before.
Yes.
But obviously, the Nurgle list is 211. So
I think it's even more.
Yeah, well, it's more because
I think it's 200.
213.
Yeah, but it's a lot of wounds on a 4+8.
Because it's not including the heroes' extra wounds, the leaders' extra wounds on the Blight Kings. So, deployment-wise, how did you deploy and how did he deploy?
Since he knew our last game was so close in Copenhagen, what I did, I was in the same time as last time here. I was in this purple or pinkish corner.
Yeah.
What I had an interesting take. He had between our two objectives on the south, on the bottom, pretty much in between, a little bit upwards, and a bit to the left, a little bit to the left. That was where his garden was.
Is the Garden of Nurgle? Is it a tree?
Yeah,
the tree.
Yeah, it's a tree. Or I was closer to objective, maybe something like that. Yeah,
tree.
And in the middle, in the center of the map, we had a big pyramid with entangling.
Graphics brought to you by Lay.
Pyramid.
with entangling, which spiced up the game a little bit, because entangling, for those who don't know, gives you if you start a run roll or start a charge roll within one of an entangling, you get -2 to either the run or the charge. And he can run a charge in LA, so he had to be a bit careful about that one.
Yeah. Because he wants to be within 7 inches, I want to say, of the tree.
Yeah.
To be able to run and charge, but he doesn't want to be within 1 inch of that.
Yeah. He also had a good side. He had Damned, which he used twice as well, which is very good on Vikings. They don't care about that one D3 wounds, or whatever it is. Well, it's just one wound, maybe. I don't know. That's D3, I think. But yeah, we can talk about his deployment first. He did a regular castle, to get the buffs out, with a great unclean one in the center, and he spread it out to screen me off a bit. Well, actually, no, not that much. And I, on the other hand, I knew my Ironclad was going to be the Be'lakor target. What I did, though, is my gun holders, I think this is kind of important here. What I did is my gun holders were, one was like at the bottom in the middle. A bit more south. Like that. So I was exactly an 18-inch move away from the garden, so I could be within 3 to deny him summoning points. But not tie him up and tie the gun holder up and act as a screen. Meanwhile, the other deployment, I had some Arcanauts on my home objective. I had Ironclad. Yes, didn't care too much where I put it. And I had so much underground, Prime. So and the Aether Wings were up north, I think.
Okay, somewhere.
Yeah, together with some Arcanauts for a little bit further behind.
Draw some birds, not just lines. We should mention that Lee is a graphic designer, so this is what you get when you book him.
This is the amazing work that you're just.
This is what full paid graphic designer gets you.
Yeah, he did the usual thing, He took the first turn because he wanted to get on the objectives. So he ran down with the 20 stack and the Lord of Blights to the south objective.
Yeah.
And the other stack, he actually conga lined in a way to screen me off as well, because he didn't want to get Ironclad behind to shoot off his Great Unclean One. So that was more home-centered. It was still pretty much... The other 20 stack was a bit more home.
So did it come out to the right objective, though?
Yes, with Be'lakor and the 5 Blight Kings.
So you had the 20 here, and then...
No. The 20 were more home than that.
But they didn't... Right. But
he has 2 20 stacks, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to
like a string behind his.
Yes, north
army.
of the center of his home objective.
Mm-hmm.
On that objective, and then in like a reversed L shape.
Okay, like that.
But the other way around.
No. What's this game called where you have to draw things and people need to guess what it is? This is what we're doing here.
Like this.
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
These are all reverse L shapes.
No.
On the left side. You wanted to
Draw
screen out.
No.
No. Like this. Like, this is the first one I did, isn't it?
Nope.
Is that what I did first?
No.
No. Okay, and then Be'lakor was up here and
to score the extra point and some Blight
yeah.
Kings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In my
the
first
Great
turn,
Unclean one, I guess.
Yeah. The Great Unclean one was in between the two stacks where he screened off, in between his two objectives. Yeah, pretty much. Right there. And he was also touching that home objective to get extra point.
I'll do him bigger because he's fat.
Yeah, he was touching the home objective to get extra point. And then he had a Lord of Blight down at his south objective. So he had heroes on all three, and he was ready to castle up. Nice painting.
That's his. This is
it's like I'm there. It's like I can see it.
You could see the Nurgles, the Blight Kings, and the Ironclad and everything.
I love the idea of someone listening to the podcast of this, and they can't see anything going on, and they're like, "What are they laughing at?"
Just imagine like full color, detailed painting, like to the millimeter accurate.
Like, reversed L shapes all over the place.
You're lucky I don't know the short keys for changing colors. Okay, so
more importantly, this created a lot of questions in my head. I knew my grudge target, by the way, were the Great Unclean one, the 20 Blight King stack that is to the south. And then I thought for a long time, is it going to be the second Blight King stack or is it Lord of Blight? Lord of Blight has to die, so I decided Lord of Blight. But when I did like this, in the south stack, I couldn't get my Hearthguards on the objective, right? Because he was inside the red circle.
Yeah.
But on the northern side, I could get a few in. I only need to get like 5 in, I think, plus the Rune Smiter, and I managed to do that. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna take that risk. And my gun holder, as I said, used to once for battle move, moved up 18 to be as a screening unit, and on the tree of Nurgle, wherever that is now. And so I blocked his summoning points. I was also thinking, should I put my other gun holder in his home territory to deny him even more points? I was like, I thought for a while, no. And obviously, he activated Be'lakor on my Ironclad, so I flew high on my home objective, and I screened off with some Arcanauts and Aetherwings. Because the thing is, even if I'm on the Ironclad, I'm still within 6 of the objective. So I still get that bonus point. I don't count as a model, but I still get the point because I'm within 6.
Yeah.
So, because I didn't want to fall behind on points. And then I started shooting. The other gun holder flew high and swapped place with the other gun holder, so it's where the first one stood. So I started shooting.
You put shot stuff up here, I'm guessing.
That's up
you
there.
Put the Rune Smiter and the...
Yeah, pretty much. I took a bit of a risk because that's not where his stacks were. But I think it would have been a mistake putting them south of that other objective. Because now I had screened off the way between that big entangling terrain and myself, my home objective with a gun holder. So he couldn't reach my home. So I was like, am I going to tunnel? I had a few options. I couldn't tunnel at his home objective because that would be waste. I could have gone the south one, but I felt like no. So I tunneled where you painted pretty much. Unlucky was Volcanic I had to stand on, which I did take the Mortals on later, which almost gave me a heart attack with a smiter. And because he was just, I precisely fit him in. So what I did, I boxed him in, like in a circle with the Hearthguards around him, so Be'lakor couldn't hit him. So he was safe, apart from the Volcanic. And But what I did a shrapnel on the Lord of Blights. I think I did 2 damage. And I did a heavy shot from the other gun holder on Lord of Blights. I missed, even with a reroll, even with gold. I even spent gold on hit because it was a 4 on hit because look out, sir. And he had the bio plate, so he had full rerolls and saves, right? Then I did... I had to roll a 5-up, because of Be'lakor. Be'lakor has an ability, for those who don't know. We discussed Be'lakor, but he can pick a target after you deployed, write it down on a paper, and then he can, during the game, once per battle, say, all right, this was my target. To do any action until my next hero phase with that unit, you have to roll a 5-up. It's either being for move, shoot, charge, fight. The thing is, fly high doesn't care.
It's an ability.
No.
Yep.
So I rolled a 5-up.
That thing.
I rolled a 5-up. So I decided I'm going to use the heavy shot into the Lord of Blights. I rolled a 1. Luckily, it was a grudge target. So I re-rolled and rolled, I think it was a 4. And then I rolled a 2, but it wounds on a 2. And he didn't manage to save it. So down goes Lord of Blight. I shot the torpedoes into... Because the thing with the Sky Cannon is it has 30 range, right? So I couldn't reach with torpedoes. The torpedoes shot into some Blight Kings and they whiffed, as usual. So and I missed a charge. I actually spent a CP to try to get a charge on Be'lakor and the Blight Kings, which I almost regretted. That was a mistake. Because I kind of thought, even if I win the prio, I'm going to give him the turn, right? Because I don't want to be my Ironclad to be stupid for another turn. We had a roll off. We both rolled a 6. So he won. But surprisingly, he took the turn. Because he told me later, he felt so threatened by these half guards coming up here on this home objective, and I ruined his castle idea. So I would have killed Be'lakor and those 5 Blight Kings, and I would have kept scoring points, and they would have a hard time coming back. Which is true. If he would have given me the double, even if the Ironclad wouldn't have shot, right? Because this is not Blight, this is Total Conquest. Because after turn 1, he had 6 points, I had 5. So we're neck and neck. What he did, though, is he actually managed to move that stack south up onto my half guards. Because the Blight Kings are so fast.
Just diagonally across the battlefield.
No. Let's go back to the L shapes.
Up there, those ones. Okay.
So these ones come this way?
Okay. No. The ones at the south did rewrite that L shape on the ones to the south at my half guard stack.
These ones were in an L shape.
Yeah. Yeah, you managed to move them.
Where did they go? Like north and then
north, north and east.
So these ones went this way.
That's not an L.
They didn't go across the terrain or the pyramid.
They went around the train.
Yeah, because you were at a Conga before, but I managed to get a lot of them in. But it was a bit of a Conga. The other ones tried to do the same, and the 5 stack went in together with Be'lakor. So he devoted a lot of research. He completely
abandoned everything just to run for those half guard.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. But at the same time, he had to do it, I think he had to do it.
But that leaves his, you can just move a gun holder onto his...
So did these ones here move as well?
Yeah, but he still kept them at the home objective. Right. So he stretched them out. He's a very good player. He knows what he's doing.
So did they end up like this?
But I think he overcommitted. But at the same time, he can't just attack with 1 Blight King stack on that stack of half guards. Especially because I had the Triumph reroll on hits.
Right.
So that's what he did. He managed to... I shrugged pretty well, so he only killed 7 half guards, I think. I was like, fine, all right. That's where I almost regretted I spent the CP, but I rolled a 2, so no one ran. He killed 6 half guards, by the way. So in my turn, I did what Max said. I just moved a gun holder to objective. I flew the Ironclad, fly high to a spot to get the bonus point from the hero. And I shot this Great Unclean one to death. I actually didn't shoot it to death. I killed him with Prime. He thought it was 2 damage a pop per attack, so he shrugged too little, but then we saw afterwards it was more. So I barely killed this Unclean one, but he was dead. While my half guards put a dent together with some other stuff into his other Blight Kings. He also got -2 bravery, so I think 3 of them ran in the main stack. That was
the stack that was across here, or the other stack.
The south stack, yeah. So and by that, that stack was almost a bit decimated, and Be'lakor died as well.
Yeah.
And the 5 stack was a bit decimated as well. While my Arcanauts at my home objective shot, their Daka shots with shots and so on. While I had Aether Wings, because he summoned another tree, I forgot that. In his turn 2, he summoned another tree. That's why he was able to do this long run and charge.
Okay.
So I put my Aether Wings out of free and blocked the summoning, while my other Gunholder, who was at the tree, swapped place with the other Gunholder again, as I said in my turn 2. And tied up his conga line, so he couldn't pie like he wanted.
Right.
And Prime tied up the other conga line from the other 20 stack. That old L shape. And then we had a prio roll. I won the prio, I got the double, and then we called the game because it was game over. He had no lords left. He had his 2 Blight King stacks left, which were both tied up, and one was severely decimated. And I had pretty much everything left. I had lost. What had I lost? I had lost still had the Hearthguards left. They took a lot of beating. I lost 14 Hearthguards, I think. That's the only thing I lost. So yeah, I think I would have won even without that prio, because I think he overcommitted on the Hearthguard. But at the same time, what else would he have done? I had screened him off. That's the only thing he could go for. Would he have gone with 500 points worth of Blight King as a Gunholder? No, I don't think he should.
Yeah, maybe he should have sat with his 20 in the south, just sit there and keep scoring.
Yeah, that's what he said. He maybe actually has a set here, but then he would have got shot to pieces.
Well, it takes a time to shoot 20 Blight Kings. Like that takes like 2 turns.
You should have seen the first game. When I bravery bomb with Prime, that guy was not happy. That's the thing. What surprised the Honest Wargamer and the guy who organized it, Owen, the output my list has, which we're gonna see in the next thing we're gonna go to, I guess. The output doesn't look too scary on paper, but it's insane. I think it's more than a regular.
So, in terms of actual output, how much damage are you typically doing with the Ironclad on the turn that you use the Exploding Sixes?
And gold?
Yeah.
Well, it can whiff, as with everything else, but the chance of whiffing is quite low when it rerolls 1 to hit, reroll full wounds, and Exploding Sixes. But I would say it could range from 15 to 35 with the shooting. And then it can charge and drop bombs, and the guy on top can hit as well.
And do the battle ram as well.
So I would say 15. It depends what I'm shooting at. I mean, if I'm not doing 35 wounds on Archeon with shooting. But now we're talking versus 4 up, 5 up save. Let's say 4 up save, 20 damage. 5 up save, 25 to 30. 6 up save. Sky's the limit.
Okay,
no,
so
it really depends how many 6s you roll. Because I mean, yes, with 14 dices plus 4 from the torpedoes, but I mean it's 2 damage per shot. So just getting 2 or 3 extra 6s is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all going to come down to how many 6s, isn't it? So
it's always how many 6s you roll. Yeah. That's the game, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, the output is scary.
Okay, so then you went. Well, I say
now,
then you. It was actually before this.
This was the before. This was my 4th game.
But we put it after because the fact that you played him to the same player in the same list twice. So another game we played in the tournament. Then 4th game was Tzeentch.
Not the regular Siege list.
No. Because they had 70 units of pink horrors.
And the worst thing of all, this was on shifting objectives.
Yeah. So the rest of the list is a Chainscaster, Fluxmaster Herald on disc, and 10 units of a unit of 10 Brimstone Horrors as well, and the Battalion Multitudinous Host. So the actual entire list is 2 drops, despite having a huge number of units of pink horrors.
And the battalion, as you mentioned, every unit can return D3 pink horrors for hero
pink
phase.
Horrors.
Yes.
Pink horrors.
Yes.
That's like
so
that's
even if they lose the icon,
50 wounds of pink horrors right there.
I had him down to brimstone, and he came back with some pinks.
Because it says here 90
wounds,
because that's what it says on War Scroll Builder. But each unit, so like each unit of 10 pink horrors, like there's 10 wounds of pink horrors, but then you bring on the blues, and then you bring on the brimstone, so they're 50 wounds basically.
Yeah.
So
an honorable mention as well, just to sorry for cutting out. It was running Guild of Summoners, which you can only summon Lord of Change, but the first one costs only 9 points.
So he summoned that like turn 1,
and he has
turn 2
7 units, and they all have a caster to pinks, so that's 7. That's basically 10 casts already he can do per turn.
And I have no unbiased.
Oh dear.
And my battle lines on this map were 10 Arcanine companies. All of this is his battle line on shifting objectives, where you get an additional point with battle line on the unit, and they count as a battle line even when they're brimstone or blue from the stack.
Yeah. Oh dear. So 350 wounds of 360 wounds of horrors.
Bit more because you come back.
Yeah.
And he also had the spell Fold Reality, which can return another D6.
Yeah. Although
even if it's down to blues.
What are horrors? 6 plus save and a 6 plus shield pain when they're pinks. So with rend and basically no save. So,
but it's the map that is rough because he obviously decided to start here. And he ran he had pretty much my grudge targets, if you're wondering, were 2 stacks of pinks. I don't remember exactly which ones. There was one in the middle stack and one on the right side. And then his lord on the right side. He also had a lovely piece of terrain he could hide behind on his side, so I couldn't get to that lord easily. Plus, he stood on it, so it was safe. But yeah, I couldn't sleep then. I knew I was going to face him the night before because this was game 4, so this is day 2. So I knew about that. So I was up all night thinking about it. I couldn't fall asleep. How am I going to deal with 7 stacks of pink horrors on shifting objectives where I have to go second?
So, how did you?
Yes, it is. This is the bit where you tell us how.
Still don't know.
So, let's start with...
I actually completely ignored the left side.
Okay.
All right. Well, what do you want to start with?
I was going to say let's start with like deployment and who went first. So go from there. I mean, we don't really need to say much about his deployment because he had stuff everywhere.
No, he had stuff as close as he could to the line, and then you want to go forward and just sit there, This gentleman actually went 4-1, so he only lost against me as well, same as the other guy.
Yeah.
So that's on paper it doesn't look like a very strong list, maybe, but it's a nightmare to play against because there's so many bodies. I mean, gotta get rid of them.
It's a DPS check because I think it's 370 wounds in total, not including them bringing stuff back.
Yeah. And not including the summoning a Lord of Change for. Because that's something I didn't know. When he summons a Lord of Change, that Lord of Change is allowed to pick any spell he wants from the spell lore. So it's basically a brand new Lord of Change. It just doesn't have traits or artifacts.
Okay.
But my deployment, I completely ignored the left side. Completely. Because I knew if I'm going to win this one, I got to spearhead. My hopes were that he was going to roll bad on the run rolls, so I could tunnel my half guards, because pinks only have 5 movement, and this is not change host, so they don't get that free teleport. So I was hoping he was going to do some bad runs in the middle. He didn't, but he didn't get far enough into the red circle on the right side. But my deployment anyway, half guards tunnel. I mean, the deployment is kind of simple. I had my Aether Wings and a 10-stack Arcanauts in the middle. And I had the Ironclad and the Gunholders a bit further south. Actually on the line, because I knew he was not going to hit me, so I was just close. So I could move normally if I wanted. and had 10 Arcanauts in the ship, and the other 10 was on the right side. Yeah, like that.
Big boat.
But what I did, yeah, pretty much something like that. And you can just do a long red line of his pinks. And he screened off with his brims in the back a little bit. And screened off to the brims in the back.
Yeah.
As I said, he went first. He had a good terrain he could hide as one of his lords behind. So what I did was, that's basically his turn. He has moved up the objectives. He scored 7 points. What I did was, he managed to get 13 pinks into the middle objective. So I ran my Arcanauts, rolled a 1 or a 2 if I remember right. So I had to spend my lovely CP. So that's something I think I might want to add to my list, an extra CP. But I don't know what to remove. Aetherwings maybe, being 1980.
I think your problem is having to roll for run rolls. Just get 6s, you know? Just get 6s.
So I made it a 6. So I got 10 guys up there. I moved the Aetherwings. They didn't have to run, because, you know, they're fast. So he had, as I said, he had this pink in the red circle, so I couldn't teleport on the middle one. Same on the right side. So I decided to go left. Same time on the left side, sorry. So I decided to go right side. So I moved the Aetherwings up. I also did a once per battle 18 movement on the gun hauler, because I said I loved that ability, because I couldn't fly high in, you know. So I had 14 bodies on the that objective.
Aetherwings and then a boat.
Gun hauler was on the other side.
Which one was the primary?
The one in the middle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
On the other side, I moved the Arcanauts just a little bit. On the right side, I flew high with a one gun hauler. So
these ones didn't run then?
They did, but they rolled horribly, so they stood still.
They were there. They weren't in.
No, because I didn't move them there, because I was like, I changed my mind. I made up a plan, because I think I played this game exceptionally well, actually.
Yeah.
The other gun hauler was in his back, just to create a nuisance far back in his territory.
In the middle or?
No, in his territory.
In his territory.
Right side.
On the right hand side, okay.
Yeah. So just to create a bit of a nuisance. While the Ironclad moved up, so it was precisely inside the circle. So the Arcanauts would count, same again as the Engine Master did on the other map. So they would count as the battle line.
On the right hand objective,
yeah. And I tunneled my half guards in front, at the same time stringing them out a little. I usually do that. I did that in the game 3 as well. I was stringing them out a little to give me options. Closer to the other objective, to the middle. Not like that. Not that far close to him. I was like at the bottom of the objective.
Okay.
Even the Ironclad was, I think.
I don't even have the pencil anymore, so...
Yeah, I was at the bottom of the objective. But I stringed them out a little bit, so I'm closer to the other objective, so I can actually conga them and run them in, get them in a charge, and so they're not locked in one place, you know. Did some shooting. Spent gold on the gun hauler to reroll hits. And shot shrapnel with both. And my gun haulers actually managed to kill that lord on the right side. So he had no lord inside, because that other lord had a artifact with battle shock immunity. This one had something else. I don't remember what. But I killed him. So, because he only had 2 lords, remember, without summoning a lord change. And then this one, I killed that one. Ironclad killed I removed 32 horrors, 34 horrors with Ironclad. And my Ironclad, my Half-Guards missed a charge. And then came the important prio, because, to be honest, I should actually have 0% chance of winning on this map versus this list. That's what I thought when I went into it. But I managed to score 5 points, so I wasn't far behind. And I actually won this double turn, and I took it. I could have probably won without it, but I feel like... So I was a bit lucky, but at the same time, versus this list, I had to be lucky. So now is what happened. I can long story short, charge into half guard, but before that, in my turn, I killed in this transition, and Prime came in on the left side as well, by the way. My Gunholders and Prime tried to tag team on the other Lord, but he made a clutch save. If I would have done that, he would have no Lord of Change in his turn. But in this transition, I killed 150 horrors in one turn. I did Exploding Sixes. I got my Hearthguards in. I deliberately did not shoot with my middle stack to create more horrors on the middle objective. So those just stood still and shot with ranged weapons. So that was on purpose. I didn't want to shoot, because if I would have created more horrors, he would have got the objective. So they just stood their ground and shot with a longer range. But yeah, I killed. It was like, I never seen anyone kill this many pinks, because my Ironclad itself did 34 damage on the pinks and the rest ran. My Hearthguards cleared another stack, and with some combo with I killed another. And even if I failed to kill the Lord, my Prime killed, 12 pinks, and some carbine shots killed some more. So yeah, he wasn't very happy. His second turn, not much happened, because the thing is, he doesn't have a lot of output in his list.
No, it's just a big sponge, basically, that he's got.
It's a big sponge, yeah.
But yeah, you so 150 pinks, 150 wounds dealt in one turn.
Over
the course of 2 double turns.
Yeah, but in the first turn I did like 30, and the second turn I did like under 20 wounds.
All right, that's still pretty impressive.
But I used everything. I mean, the Ironclad killed a stack by itself, by just shooting. At the same time, I had that Ironclad in the middle objective, so I was ready for turn 3. Oh, that's the good play I did, actually. That's actually, I think, the best play I did in the game. You know the Arcanist that failed to run in the first turn?
Yeah.
Those swapped space, because I couldn't get the other ones inside, because the Hearthguards were in the way. So the ones in the side Ironclad jumped out to the object on the right. The primary was on the left, so that was bad for me. Couldn't get it. So those jumped out to get the extra point, and Arcanauts actually kill pinks really hard. On an objective, they kill so much. Because there's 15 shots with pistols, the volley gun, and the skyhook. And the Ironclad picked up the other guys who failed to run. Flew high, because I had a little spot I could fly high in, because I got a double. So I managed to get the battle line on that one as well for the future, if I need it, because I already had one. But so I think that was pretty smart. And yeah, he pretty much almost gave up after that, because he knew he didn't have the output in his turn, and I had spearheaded him so hard. He got the Lord of Change in, but I mean, he couldn't do much. He shot like 140 shots into Prime, but they're 5s and 4s.
Wow, yeah, and so he survived that.
Yeah, I mean, he had his middle and his left a little bit left. I did decimate his middle a little bit in his turn, because he charged in, because he had to get bodies on the objective, and I won the Prio for turn 3. Even if we would have gotten a double, he would have lost. Because I had lost, after his 2 turns, I had lost 2 Aether Wings and 7 Arcanauts. Not 1 Aether Wing, actually. I had 2 left. Even the Aether Wings killed pinks. But yeah, somehow I mean, it was just because of that sheer amount of damage I did in T2. I managed to win. Yeah. And as I said, they do run. When you kill so many, they do run. So you don't have to kill 50. You kill like 25, and the rest runs.
As soon as the icons go on, they don't get anything back, and then they just run.
Well, they do in the sub-faction, so that's why I have to completely kill them. Otherwise, there will be 3 pinks left. Another D3, and it's like, and then they get the icon back. They can bring back the icon as well.
Yeah.
Can they? Can they bring back an icon?
Yeah, they can bring back
any one pink horror. They choose anyone, and if that one just happens to have an icon, then I guess it just happens to have an icon.
Because when you summon, because it's 1 in 10, so when you summon, you need to actually have 10 of them to access an icon. That's why in like Legion of Chaos Ascendant they changed it to 5 horrors, so they don't bring an icon with them.
No, but you can get the icon back in this situation.
That's stupid. Okay.
It's very stupid. I managed to pull through, and that's the game I actually thought I was going to lose, for sure. Because, as I said, I mean, in the Viking list I faced, they're strong, and it's a DPS check, but I think it's a on those scenarios I faced them, it's manageable. On this one, I think Blight King spam on this one would have been tough as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because everything is battle line. Because what do I have? 3x10 Arcanum Company. I have to keep them alive, right? I can't waste them. But at the same time, they have to be on the objective. So, and the best way to be on the objective and not die, be in the ship. Sorry for rambling. There's a lot to go through on this.
Yeah.
What tangents on Aethercast?
That doesn't really happen. A tangent because he was talking about the game. But yeah, I mean, so it sounds like really his battle plan was to get on the objectives and survive. And
that's what his list does.
Yeah, and he didn't actually survive because you just killed so much with the double turn.
Because I think the Hearthguard. I mean, without the Hearthguards, I can't win matchups like this. Same with the Blight Kings. I think you don't have enough output in a normal KO list.
So I don't know. It wasn't that many pinks, but when I played at the GTC, what was it, 20 pinks in a change host? So that took me. Yeah, it took me 2 turns. But as you said, mostly
20 pinks. Yeah.
It was with 20 Thunderers rerolling like basically the entire army, just shooting, rerolling all hits with a flare pistol, and that was a gamble. Like I need a double turn to actually remove these, but as you said, once and then I removed a couple of heroes. So basically, then they just if you kill 20, then the rest just run from battle shock. Yes, bravery 10, but that's another 20 running away. So. 370 or 360 horrors or horror wounds. That's a lot.
Minus, I mean, he did get quite a few pinks back as well, mind you. So on the other flanks, so especially on where the Prime went in, because I think what I tried to achieve with Prime and the gun holders was to deny him the summoning at all, and which I would have if it wasn't for the clutch save. I would have left him on 1 HP. If I would have used the Prime shooting on him, but it is what it is, and I won the game. So
it seems like a very passive list. Like his whole thing is he's going to sit in front of you and then just have more wounds than you have bullets. But yeah, I could never run a list like that. You got to be aggressive. You got to have the initiative.
I mean,
and
he went 4-1 as well. People had trouble beating his list. He went 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the thing with this list that people forget is he will start summoning at least 2 Lord of Changes. Like the first one for 9 points, the second one for 18 summoning points, and he has all these pinks. They have a cast. They can cast on what is it? A casting value of 5 or something.
Yeah.
So basically, he's getting a lot of points.
Plus, if his opponent has casting, it gets even more.
Yeah, then it's just if he faces like a Lumineth list, it's just like 2 Lord of Change per turn. Basically,
Lumineth. I don't know if you faced one, but Lumineth, like, what's it called, the lightning thingy? Oh, thank you, I get more pinks. That's pretty much what it does.
The old or like Vanari Lumineth or no?
Yeah,
not an issue. But new stuff is interesting.
I think in this tournament with this list, that if you want to run a comparison, in the previous list, I faced a lot of these meta lists like Zilfin. I faced the regular Lumineth list. I faced with Ticklets. I faced the anti-meta Nurgle list, which I faced twice here. I faced Change Host. So in this tournament, I faced more swamp lists. I faced Blight Kings. I faced this one and so on. But I do think my list is actually better against these tech lists because I have a lot of things to work with. I can remove key threats. I can remove key targets quite easily, and I do have bodies to back myself up with. So, but it just shows that I can deal with swamp lists as well, I guess.
One question. You said you mostly tunnel the Hearthguard Berserkers, but then how often is it annoying that you need to make a 9-inch charge with them?
I don't count when I tunnel. I don't. It's a bonus if I make the charge. That's not why I tunnel them. It's not like I rely on it. Sometimes you have to gamble. As I said when we discussed in the Zilfin match, I was like, I might need to get the double or get the charge here. But at the same time, as I said, it creates especially if I spend a CP on it, it creates an uncomfortable situation for the opponent. Like getting a 9-inch charge with 2 chances or getting a double is, I would say, the odds are in my favor of getting either one of these things happening. But at the same time, it's not game over for me if I don't. Like a Zilfin list to get doubled, they lose.
It's surprising that people like getting a double. You have 11 drops. I'd assume you don't often get a second, like in the first turn. Like they make you go first.
A lot of
go.
No. Let's see. When did I go first in this tournament? The same time in last tournament. I didn't go first a single time. Yeah, I went first one time. I got doubled on Scorched Turf. So that's the only game I had to start.
That's interesting. Why would people choose to?
Because I can see why the Nurgle list starts, because they want to,
Yeah, they need to buff stuff up, and then they can take a double against them usually.
Yeah, and I can see why this guy started. So.
Yeah, because he wants to swamp the objectives.
That KO guy at the start, he really should have gone second.
Yeah,
he should. At the same time, I could have swamped objectives, I guess. I think he could deal with it.
Because also, what you said, your opponent said that you have so many threats that they're afraid of.
In this Hamertime
I agree, but the Hearthguard, as you said, they need a 9-inch charge, rerollable. I don't know what is that, like a.
It's like a 30% chance or something.
35 something percent chance. Okay, that's not too probable. The Prime coming down first turn basically makes him so much weaker.
He would never come down first turn.
So he would never. So he's not a threat first turn. Okay, and then you have the Ironclad. You always have the Ironclad. 9 inches away. So you need to screen against that.
But it's not hard to screen on Ironclad. It's a carbine so strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 12-inch that you need to screen out. That's easy to do. And then it's long-range shooting from gunholders and the Ironclad that can do damage, yes. And if you rely on some small buff heroes, it's dangerous. But it's interesting that people, they see your list and like, there's so many threats, so many hard things. I need to go first. Whereas, especially if the Hearthguard are like in a tunnel, like, why are you going first? What are you achieving? So it's interesting to see that. I would have guessed that they always make you go first.
I think it really depends on the matchup and which scenario. I can see why the pink guy started. I can see why the Blight King player started, and the other guy made me go. The other guys made me go second. Made me go first. So I can see why. But in Copenhagen, as we discussed, I think the Zilfin guy made a mistake by going first. I think he was a pretty decent player, pretty good, but I think he overestimated how much. He did a lot of damage to me, but the risks he took, I think.
Yeah,
but that's
if you overcommit,
the risk
then
is always that you're just going to get double turned and your KO are going to die. KO.
You cannot afford to lose bodies on KO, because then you're left with an Ironclad and like an Engine Rigger somewhere and a Gunholder. Wow.
Yeah.
You're not going to win games with free.
In his case, it was a Frigate and Ironclad and a Chemist. It's
not
going to win my game.
It's free models. It's not going to score anything.
No, and I can see why the tech list I faced went first.
Yeah, because he wants to get his 5+ Feel No Pain up.
So I can see why people in Copenhagen, and I can see why people here. I think it's only the Zilfin list where I think he shouldn't have started in the matchups we've been looking through. Because I think the other ones did the right move. I mean, like game 5 here, which we discussed versus both on Blade's Edge and on Total Conquest versus Tyler. I think he should start on both those scenarios. Because
Blade's Edge especially
when he has Be'lakor.
Yep. No.
I mean, in the second tournament, in the Hamertime tournament, you essentially pretty much every game played against lists with lots of bodies.
Yes.
And I think, generally speaking, all of those sorts of lists, they kind of benefit from going first because they just swamp objectives.
Yeah, they just want Alpha Bunker.
So, I mean, if that's what their list is designed to do, then they're going to do it. So, whether they outdrop you or not.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's interesting just how many sheer bodies you came up against in this tournament.
Yes, and compared to the other one.
It makes you wonder if like the meta is reacting a bit to, KO and.
I don't think so. I think I don't know. It's kind of strange. We had so many Tzeentch Archeon in the top in Hammertime. I think 5 out of 5. We had 5 in the end. We had 5 Tzeentch Archeon in top 10.
Wow!
That I didn't face a Tzeentch Archeon is just remarkable, and which is why I'm facing one tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think I think my list.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's CTS. People will play 200 bodies. No one in real life will start painting. Well, but maybe some. But much less people will paint 200 bodies for a real life tournament.
Or 360 pinks, as you said.
360 pinks.
Oh, pinks are really easy to paint just with contrast.
But you need to paint 10 pinks. Then you need to paint another 40 just for that unit.
Yeah.
So that's no one's painting 370 models.
It's pretty nuts.
No, but on TTS, who cares? Copy paste. Sure. Yeah. So it's interesting the list that we see there, but I don't think it's what you would see in real life tournaments.
No, but the list I faced in Copenhagen were more normal.
Yeah.
So, but I think my list does better against those lists, like let's say old Techlist lists or change hosts or regular lists. I was a bit worried when I started my first matchup versus a Blight King list again, because I didn't know. I playtested my list a bit. I played a few matches. I played versus the meta Morathi, Dorch of Cain, versus a very good player who took out a tournament recently. He took out Grandhammer. I did beat him on Scorched Earth, so I felt like, all right, this seemed quite strong. I faced other stuff as well. I think that's the thing with this list I have here. I think it's kind of universal. I mean, it can face and beat most lists in the game. It has counters, sure. I think Tzeentch Archeon is a quite tough matchup. I can deal with it. I just kill everything around Archeon and then kill Archeon. And so yeah, I think it's a strange list, right? It's not a meta list. I mean, it's not, but it's good against the meta, and it's good against anti-meta. Like, it's good against Blight Kings. It's good against these swamp lists, and it's good against these tech lists as well. The techie lists with Archeon, Tzeentch, and or what else, or other Kharadron. So I think I like the list. I think it's strong, and I got a lot of positive feedback around it as well.
So with the list, you obviously progressed it a bit, from your original list that you took to Copenhagen. Are you considering any other changes to it going forwards?
Yes. Well, this one I think is probably one of the stronger one I can build, but I love building Thryng lists. So I have plenty of Thryng lists built. I have one with Soulscream Bridge and 20 Drakes, and still has an Ironclad and so on. I have one with the same as I just said, with Soulscream Bridge, Drakes, and with 20 Hearthguard Berserkers. Doesn't have an Ironclad, has 2 frigates instead of an Iron Sky attack squadron.
Would you consider putting in some Hell Cannons?
I can't.
They're legends.
No, I can't. They don't have the Duardin keyword.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
But they're legends, so you
they're
can't
legends,
use
so
them in a tournament.
Because I looked into the Chaos Dwarf stuff before they. They don't have the keyword.
No, the Chaos Dwarves don't, but for some reason the Hell Cannon does.
The Chaos Hell Cannon, but it's legend, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe bring it up in a friendly game. What's the stats on that thing?
It's not good. It does it can do 2d6 mortal wounds, which is all right, but like.
For how much points?
300.
Oh well, all right. I was like, is it 150 points or something?
No, it's just bad and no.
It's look, it'll be a memorable game for your opponent because you'll be taking chaos in an order army.
How about a Rune Lord for like some dispelling?
No, that's why I said I have a Rune Lord. Well, not in this list, but in the other list with the Drakes, I have the Rune Lord. I have the Longbeards to reroll once to hit, wound. So they are basically reroll once to hit, reroll once to wound, 2 rend apiece, exploding 6s, maybe a Triumph as well, if I want. Like that's nasty. But the thing with that list, it's a lot of
steep investment for an extra 12-inch move. It's so much better in Tempest Eye.
Yes,
with 24-inch bridge.
Yes, I know. It's just a fun list, you know. It's
what's
it's a lot of eggs in one basket.
What I tried in Thryng is free gyrocopters with exploding 6s with steam guns.
Yeah,
because they roll a lot of dice, and then you have exploding 6s. They roll like just hundreds of dice.
Yep, but that's so good against hordes.
Yeah, like skinks, Fangs of Sotex with 40 skinks and stuff. You just have free.
Bye.
It's 180 points of gyrocopters. They have a 16-inch move and an 8-inch reach.
Yeah,
so
I like gyrocopters.
And then they just
don't forget the
6s.
bombs. The bombs can do some
the
hero
bombs
sniping
good,
as
but
well.
it's the exploding 6s, re-rolling ones with 40 or like maybe 20 shots each. 60. It's just you end up with
it's freeze and 4 1 rend 1 damage, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Thryng has a lot of interesting builds which you can't really do in, like, say, Zilfin.
I think the closest thing you can do to Thryng is actually Tempest Eye,
which we discussed earlier, which was my intro into Thryng.
Yeah. The trouble with Thryng is you've got to buy a lot of models because there's so much you can try out.
No,
unless you already own all these Dwarven models.
you just as you should own 3 Dwarven armies and be done with it.
Okay.
Hopefully,
I don't know what your problem is, Lee. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't get it either.
Each self-respecting dwarf player should own at least 3 Dwarven armies.
Possibly 4 soon with Grungy.
Possibly soon. 4. I'm not sure if I would count Legion of Asgore as a Dwarven army, but okay, maybe.
Maybe 5 soon.
We'll see what comes up, but I mean,
high hopes.
Yeah, there could be something. Maybe the first army for 3.0, the first battle tone could be a Dwarven army, maybe.
What are your guys' thoughts on some people wanted to do a mixed Dwarven battle tome? I'm against that. Like putting like KO and Fire Slayers together, or Dispossessed and Fire Slayers, or whatever.
If they keep their own battle tomes, or you mean like scrap their existing battle tomes and make one big?
Yes. Put them together.
Grand Alliance Dwarven. No.
No. It's a step backwards.
Exactly.
If they did something like Wrath of the Everchosen style sort of thing, something where it's like you can combine them in this book, but they still have their books elsewhere that they can,
like a Wrath of the Grombrindal.
Yeah, Wrath of Grombrindal.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And so if you're in that allegiance, then you can combine them. But
the Reckoning,
the Reckoning, grudge settling.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they will implement Grombrindal. I hope.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna.
Wrath of the Grombrindal.
Yeah.
Morathi, look out.
The grudge of Grombrindal, wouldn't it be, rather than Wrath?
Grudge. Grudge settlers.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we covered everything now.
I think so.
Well, without talking, we could probably talk for days about potential Thryng because there's so many options with all the Dwarven units, but
there's an entire video out there.
A question from me to you guys. What are your general thoughts on my 2 lists we've gone through?
I prefer the second one.
Having 2 units that start off the board and can just teleport in at any point, it's just it combines really well with Kharadron Overlord's natural ability to teleport around. So you can kind of just have this little castle in the back, and then your army will just be everywhere. So even though you're taking Dwarden, you're still not losing out on the speed and maneuverability this army gives you, which is really good.
I like the fact that both are high drops as well, because I think that is a place that
an advantage.
A lot of KO players don't explore, but it is great for KO because of the fact that we can, basically null deploy by putting stuff in the corner, or in your case, putting stuff off the board.
Yeah.
And then you can still be anywhere. So
you lose out on an artifact, basically. That's what the battalion brings you. I mean, with some minor tweaks, as I said, I'd personally go with broad axes and stuff like that. But I like the list. Another thing with Thryng is even Thryng, I think, is also strong if you don't bring any other Dwarden units, because having your army reroll ones against, like, automatically reroll ones to hit against 3 different units, that's just massive.
And exploding sixes.
Yeah. And the ones per game exploding sixes, that alone is just a very good buff.
Yeah, you could do a really interesting list with 42 balloon boys, Max. How would you feel about that?
Fights on a 4-up when to die.
Hit like and subscribe. We're gonna end the show here.
Yeah. Because you don't have to answer that question.
I have another thing though. In Broken Rose Bellacore, we saw a new war score for Grimwrath Berserker. A bit underwhelming when you play Fire Slayers, but one of the oaths he can take, I've been looking to put him into my list. He got 110 points now. One of the oaths he can take is so he can run and charge all the time, and he can always reroll the run and charge roll.
But would you then tunnel him?
No. I mean, it's just
so instead of the Rune Smiter.
No, he would be an extra element. So he would be.
Would you class?
I would also give him the Grudge Hammer.
No, you cannot. He needs to be a Skyfarer to get the Grudge Hammer.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Sadly. If not, I'd give the Grudge Hammer to like a lot of other heroes who have more attacks.
I'm not sure he has to be a Skyfarer unit.
I can check for you. I have the book here.
Me too. I never consider giving to someone else.
The first Barak Thryng Skyfarer hero to receive an artifact of power must be given.
Oh my.
Yep.
Boring.
I think that if you do that, then the thing
is
with
he
the
one
Grimwrath,
that also gets better if he's near allies?
No, that's the stupid Doomseeker who's just worthless.
Okay.
He was worthless before. He's not as worthless because he's 10 points less, but still.
And a little bit better.
The Grimwrath, but then because you choose the oath to reroll charges, you lose the oath for his feel no pain. And then he just dies easily.
Yeah, he dies easily.
4+ save.
4+. The thing though is, I mean, he's quite cheap and he is quite fighty. I'm not saying he's auto.
If you get him in, he's fighty, yes.
But he can run and charge. He can reroll every run and charge roll as well all the time. I'm not saying he's excellent, but he could be added a little bit extra element, and as well as a bit of a distraction carnifex from the Hearthguards or the Runesmiter, which you probably want to be close to as well, to have another element, another way of giving them the 4-up shrug.
Maybe as a team, like if you add in some Oryx for him to keep him alive. Maybe
that would be too much of an investment. I'm not saying I should put him in, but I'm just exploring stuff.
Test it out. But personally, it's a shame. It's a nice one.
110. Well, I might as well just take another Endrin Master on the ship, right?
Exactly. Or even a navigator to like half move someone.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to take out a gun hauler or the Celestial Briar or something to get that 110.
No, not in this list. Not in this list.
Just generally speaking.
Yeah, generally. Okay. I mean, no. This list I wouldn't put him in. Never.
No. I like this list. I wonder if you take out the Prime and put in the Elf Twins.
Yeah, I've been looking into that.
To get access, because they're similarly fighty, like towards the end of the game, where they get like then 4 attacks, like 4 damage, 5 damage on the sword. and they can like give out like a Mystic Shield to someone or do some casting.
Or add extra command point at the start of the battle, right?
Extra command point, so that would solve your problem with the real like the ones on run rolls. But the thing is with them, they're just random. Like they sit on an objective, they want to hold it, and poof, off they go. They just teleport. You cannot control it.
Yeah. Well, in this tournament, we could not pick them because
obviously
there was no FAQ for them. So
yeah,
I think Prime is adding a lot for the points you pay.
He's definitely worth like in if you build a list that is designed to have him in it, he does a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just that automatic charge is so powerful.
Yeah, and that's the drawback on those twins is the Prime is really reliable on where you can move him to, whereas the twins will just randomly teleport somewhere without when you don't want them to.
Yeah, you need to. No, it's not random where they go, but you cannot control if they go.
Yes, you might get forced to teleport them when you don't want
and then they need to stay out of 12, so it's even worse.
So that's
they're too gimmicky, I think. They're too unreliable, as we discussed earlier. I like reliability, and I think Prime gives me that.
Yep.
So,
all right.
But yeah, I think it's a cool list. It does make me consider taking Thryng more.
It is fun.
It's just having to buy.
It's fun to play.
Having to buy 20 half-cup berserkers.
Try it out on TTS. So you only need to buy a PC.
Yes. I was looking at PCs
PC.
today. I went to buy a new phone today, and then I also looked at PCs while I was there. But yeah, I think we covered everything. So thank you, Markus, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Max and Alex, as usual, for joining. Thank you, everyone that watched. If you like the show, please do hit like. If you like what the channel is doing generally, hit subscribe. And yeah, if you want to let us know any thoughts you had on the lists or the games or anything about Aethercast, really, then leave a comment. And lastly,
if you want the dice.
Yeah. Lastly, don't forget, if you want to get some Aethercast dice, then check out Ko-Fi. The link is in the description, so you can pre-order them in there. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Goodbye.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
All right.